Longhorn Nation, we're back.
All right, welcome back to another episode of Fire the Cannon. I'm Rocky.
And I'm Megan, and we are Fire the Cannon.
Oh, that was a sad one. Try it again.
Sad.
There we go.
You got to bring the boom,
We didn't
right?
bring the boom. Come on, we bring the boom to you. Right in the whole thing this fall.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
All right, welcome back, Megan. Lots to talk about.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we'll give a little love to talk Texas soccer. We are working on an interview with one of the players, so we hope to bring you a special Friday mini episode with a great interview with one of the players, their championship season. So we'll talk a little bit about that, give them a little more love. College football week 12. We have lots of news, lots of stories. We're going to make all our predictions against the spread. We'll see who gets to take advantage of their bye weeks, because it seems like if you have a bye week, you have a chance of not being upset. Right? Crazy upsets. We'll make all our picks against the spread, which we love to do. Of course, we're going to talk Texas, Arkansas. The rivalry is back. Texas is going on the road, hostile environment. We'll get some perspective from the players, from the coaches. We'll dive into the availability report.
Yes.
Right?
Don't call it the injury report. Right?
Yeah, the availability reports, and compare the offense and the defense and the stats, and where Texas can take advantage and where Arkansas can take advantage. And they have that wild rivalry home field advantage for sure. So we'll dive into that. We'll give our keys to the game, what we think Texas needs to do to win, what Arkansas needs to do to win. And then we have some great top stories around sports, college football and beyond. So lots to talk about. We love being live on Thursdays because we get to see your comments. So if you have opinions or thoughts, share those with us. Make sure you like and subscribe so you can be notified when we go live on Thursdays. All right, let's get into it, Megan. How are you doing?
Good.
Welcome back.
Good. Yeah. Well, welcome back. You just got back in.
I got back to Austin
today.
like an hour ago.
Yeah.
I landed an hour ago. Easy flight. So when I leave my house in Puerto Morelos, I am like through security and sitting with a beverage in 40 minutes.
That doesn't suck.
40 minutes from the time I leave my house, get to the airport, print my boarding pass, get to security. And it's the easiest. Now that it's getting high season, it's not going to be so easy.
Right.
But
it'll take it's still easy. It just takes a little bit longer.
So easy. But I'm not that I'm going to push it and be rushing late for a flight. Never. But it was pretty good. And my friend Vanessa came. Yeah. Which was pretty. Well, she happened to be nearby, so she came and spent a couple of days with me. And it's so fun to watch. She's one of those people that's just happy to be and easygoing and go anywhere, hang out. And so it was really fun because she likes to be around the sports, but she doesn't understand it or follow it.
She's one that would call it sports ball. Right?
Yes. She's like, yay, sports.
Yeah.
So she's
go the team.
Yes. Which is great because she take her to soccer or football. She's happy to be.
Yeah. She's down for a good time.
She's happy to be out and about. So it's pretty funny because the way I watch football with like win probability and stuff. So we were chilling at the house after we had went to dinner, and I was showing her. We were watching this game, Ball State Buffalo, and she's like kind of on her computer watching. I'm like, look at this. There's 3 minutes left, and Ball State has a 90% chance of winning. And they said Buffalo has to get down the field, score a touchdown, and a 2-point conversion. Don't worry about what that is, but it's really hard to do. They have a 90% chance of not doing it. So they get down the field and they get a touchdown. Like, look, they're gonna do it. They get the 2-point. But now they have to hold Ball State. And she's like, what? And so she's watching the probability with me. I'm like, they're going overtime. So now, and you can see the probability. So it was exciting to watch it this way with her because then she was way more invested. So it was pretty fun to show her, I don't want to make you crazy, but if you hang out with me, you're going to be following probability.
No, look, I love it. You are always all about the win probability charts and everything. And I'm going to say, if you're going to get somebody involved and excited about it, the MAC is a good way to do that.
Yes,
on any given play, at any given moment, wild things can happen, right? In the action. So that was a good game to show her the win probability, right? Instead of a blowout. Somewhere.
Yeah, which last night the games were all blowouts. So we saw it on the TVs, but we weren't worried about it.
So watching that go up and down is a lot of fun. That's a good time.
That was pretty fun. And how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good. Look, I've still in this interview process. We talked about that a little earlier. I think I applied most recently for 15 jobs. Just what's out there. What can I do? Got interviews with 3. Move forward on all of them.
That's amazing.
And one of them, I got to give them credit. Man, they're really communicative. They've been I mean, within minutes of me finishing an interview, they're like, okay, we want to move forward to the next.
That's awesome.
Which is good. That's encouraging, right?
Yeah.
But I got to tell you, it is a grueling process, like going through it. And with this one particular job, it has been, you know, you go through the first interview with the HR person to kind of, you know, they're screening you.
Make sure you actually know what you wrote about. The resume was yours.
Yeah, exactly. And then, you know, that's about an hour. And then you go through, and of course, this is during business hours too, right? So that's about an hour. And then the next round is with, you know, who would be my direct supervisor. And so that's another hour. And then they send you tests, right? Work tests. You need to do this, and they give you some examples and they give you whatever. And in my mind, I'm like, you know, I don't really love it because I feel like I'm doing work for you for free.
Well, as long as they're not like using it for a client.
That's the key, right? Yeah. Like this particular one was like, oh, how can we improve this product that we, you know, this website for the product that we haven't released yet? And I'm like, I'll tell you, but also you better hire me because if I'm doing this, I should get paid for it, right? No, but they've been great. And so made it through that. And most recently went on site for an interview with 3 of the higher ups there. So I feel like it's good vibes and like the energy is good. And hopefully, you know, I'll have some information. They're now on to the citing references. And I've got to ask you, like going through work, you know, interviews and things like that, you give your references. Do your people contact you when you're like, hey, I got these questions for the reference, or, you know, do you give them a heads up or do you just like let them know, hey, you're going to be contacted and you just hope for the best from there?
What do you mean? Like the friend that I said the job is going to call you? Like if I was applying for a job and I gave them your number, what would I tell you?
Yeah. What would you tell me?
I would be like, this is the job I'm applying for. These are the skills I said I have. Go from there.
It's like, let's share notes a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. Because I don't want to be like, yeah, she's an excellent something. And they're like, well, that's not this job.
Yeah. So, no, I definitely, you know, I made sure it was okay that I could refer a few of my friends.
I always
people that I work directly with, of course.
Yeah, I always like to say more like I'll be a character reference if it's somebody that I don't work closely in an office with. I'm happy to be a character reference, but if I worked in an office with them, then I guess it's different kind of more professional or whatever.
I've been really fortunate because in my line of work, again, it's marketing. As y'all can probably tell, I'm quite an outgoing person. I'm an extrovert too. So I've had some really good connections. I've met a lot of wonderful people in the places that I've worked. So I feel comfortable like, hey, do you mind being my work reference and whatever? But I don't know, I guess either I'm doing something right or we're just cheating the system. But it was nice because all 3 of them contacted me and they're like, all right, here's what they sent me. Are we cool? Here are my answers. Are these good?
That's good.
Do you want me to change anything? I'm like, oh, I appreciate that. That was cool. So anyway, fingers crossed on that. Luck. Hopefully that goes through. So yeah, but it's crazy how much time it takes. You know, I don't see how people go through this process while they're dealing with their current job. Like, how do you slip away for 5 hours during the work week
and not be noticed? And not be noticed that you're dressed up to go to a job interview.
You know what I mean? It just seems like crazy stuff. But.
I don't know. All right, let's give a little love to Texas soccer. This is the beautiful team photo they took in front of the tower. I kind of wish the tower stood out a little more in the picture. Maybe they can pump it up but I mean, they're bright and beautiful up front. The tower, you can see it enough, but the Texas soccer, we know they won the SEC championship. They have the first SEC championship for the University of Texas. That's amazing. They are playing this Friday night here at UT Austin. Tickets are only $8 for general admission tickets. You can go to texaslonghorns.com to get tickets to come support the women Friday night versus Boston University in the NCAA tournament. So they're on their way competing for a national championship. This is pretty cool. They got celebrated at the Texas men's basketball game.
I love it.
Oh, that's so great.
You love to see it.
Yeah. So they got, let me close that. All right. So they got celebrated. And then to top off this great week for soccer, Texas soccer, they just happen to be the women. They signed the top 5 class in the country.
Yeah.
So
amazing.
That's amazing. More yesterday's signing day, basketball. We saw some baseball signees. We saw track and field signees. All the different sports had their signing days.
Yeah,
so congratulations to we have some friends whose sons or daughters were able to sign, scholarships. So congratulations to everyone. It's a huge day. And soccer's on a roll, so they have more talent in the pipeline coming in.
Yeah, and look, and talking of that, soccer having that
SEC ready. Yep.
Yeah, that number 5 recruiting class. I want to give a quick shout out to baseball because obviously football is my sport. We love to support all Texas sports here, but baseball is my love as well.
Yes.
And this news just out that Texas baseball signed the #2 recruiting class for 2025.
Yes.
Which was a huge swing from where we had been previous. We know that we saw some of those commits that had committed at A&M to Schloss. So this is, I mean, really, you're seeing Coach Schlossnagle have an immediate impact at Texas, and he hadn't even coached a game here yet.
Wow.
So pretty impressive there, and great things. Look, in CDC, we trust, right? It's just been really great to watch the programs that he's building and how he has improved game day experience all throughout campus, really made the smart hires. We talked about this, previously, but you look at a program like Texas men and women swimming and diving. Right? Texas is a swimming and diving school. All of these national championships. You have Coach Eddie Reese, the best in the business, the GOAT to do that, and he over 50 years, just absolutely incredible coach to bring the success, the long-term success at UT. Eventually the man's got to retire, right? We held on to him a little bit longer. And then when he finally decided, you know what, it's time to hang him up. What does CDC do? Brings in the national champion coach, steals the national champion coach away.
Right.
So again, really great things on the 40, and it's just really fun to watch and see how Texas is doing. So congrats to all the signees. Welcome home to Texas. Welcome to it. We're excited to have you all on campus. Can't wait to see what you do in all the sports. So really exciting.
Lawson agrees. 7 of the 10 baseball recruiting classes are SEC. Absolutely. And that means that it is going to be as competitive, if not more competitive than football. Everybody, is always concentrating on football, but women's basketball, SEC, very competitive. Softball with Texas and OU coming is going to be the toughest conference. Baseball is going to be a challenge. So,
yeah. And as much as we talk about it, we'll talk about this a little bit later, because some of the heat that Texas is getting for having an easy SEC schedule in football. I thought there were no easy schedules.
No, they're not.
Look, as much scrutiny as football goes under, and is Texas SEC ready? The SEC is a better baseball conference than it is a football conference, and it's a damn good football conference. So to see Texas really coming up and being ready, and I think they're in a good position. Of course, we want to always thank Coach David Pierce and Steve Rodriguez for everything that they did for Texas, but there was definitely a little bit of a lull there. So seeing this momentum going into the season. So, and don't forget, if you guys are baseball season ticket holders, the deadline to renew is this Monday, the 18th. So
renew your baseball.
Yeah, make sure you get that in for sure. So, all right.
So we want to talk college football for sure. We're going to talk about the new playoff rankings that came out Tuesday night. We recorded, and they were coming out as we were recording. And so let's talk about how that was updated. We'll talk about how that showed the bracketology that's coming from that, what matchups we're looking at. And then we're going to compare it to BCS, because are they getting it right? Is the committee getting it right compared to computer old style BCS? We'll compare that. So first, let's take a look at the playoff rankings. Oregon, #1, we know they're still undefeated. Ohio State, their only loss is at Oregon. Texas has that loss at home to Georgia, but other than that, they've dominated the games for the most part that they needed to. Penn State is still in the hunt. They have that loss to Ohio State at home. Indiana still undefeated. BYU hanging on. Tennessee, Notre Dame, both with ugly losses, but for the rest of that, they've won. Miami just took their first loss at Georgia Tech. We'll talk about that. Bama with 2 losses, but still a top 10 team because they're playing their best ball now, I guess. So what about this surprises you in the playoff rankings? We see SMU is in that bubble to get a shot if they can win out in the ACC conference championship game, maybe beat Miami. If Miami should make it, they could be in the playoffs. So what about these rankings? Anything surprise you? Anything if somebody should be higher or lower in these rankings?
Yeah, look, first of all, I want to shout out to Tulane for showing up there. We've got some friends that work
that
out.
Little wave, the little
green wave. Yeah.
He's so cute too.
It is simultaneously the most ridiculous and like one of the best logos at the same time.
It's a pretty great, because we can tell he's a wave, and he's got the blue water over his head, but he's still green.
Yeah. How do you animate a wave and make it a thing? Well, they did a pretty good job.
And make him kind of feisty. He looks a little feisty.
A little scrappy.
Yeah.
A little scrappy wave. Yeah. But anyway.
I like that wave.
Shout out to them for being in the top 25. Look, I think LSU dropping down to 22 is something that, while I'm not debating if it was deserved or not, I think that's about right. I think that's a little surprising, right? Considering the expectations coming into the season. Otherwise, looking at it, Indiana, is still continues to surprise ? I think there's some questions on, do they deserve to be a top 5 team given, for all the flack that Texas gets for their weak schedule. Indiana ain't doing much better, right?
No, their schedule's pretty lowly ranked. The competition they played. We'll break down in a bit their strength of schedule.
Yeah.
I would think like Aggies keep hanging right around 15. Everyone around them is moving around. They stay right at 15. I like Boise State right about where they are.
13.
Yeah. But LSU 3 losses and they're still a top 20. Top 22 in the country. And it's not like they've just been playing amazing ball and lost a tough one on the road.
They've been hit or miss.
They got drilled at home.
That I think is weighing in. But I do think we're seeing some of that SEC and maybe some LSU favoritism there playing in a little bit. But again, looking at talking surprises and would you have guessed this at the beginning of the season? South Carolina being ahead of LSU at this point in the season is not something that I would have anticipated, given the up and down nature that South Carolina's had. So
a lot of this will sort itself out in the next few days. We'll talk when we look at the schedule and make our picks. We see coming up soon, Ohio State is they're going to settle it with Indiana soon. A lot of these could work their way out in their conference championships. We'll see if it's Clemson or Miami or SMU for the ACC. Big 12, we saw in the brackets. We'll look at the brackets now. They're not giving room for more than one Big 12 team, so they got to win. The odds of making it, I would think like Army still undefeated. And how much of this is looking at the eyeball and how much of this is saying of the like Oregon, I'm going to pick Oregon to beat any of these other teams or beat most of them. Would you really say that if Alabama down at 10 would lose to BYU would they?
Yeah.
I wouldn't think BYU is a better team than Alabama, but because of their record, you have to rank them. So it's not all, you know what I mean? Like you have 2 losses, but also you would beat those other teams if you played them on a neutral site.
Yeah. Look, and I think that's a really good barometer, right? Like that's a good litmus test there. I will say this, Danny Cannell is still pissed about the FSU thing, still spewing off ridiculous words. He tweeted out recently, SMU has a better resume than Texas. It's not even debatable, but they're ranked 11 spots lower. 11. Big brand bias at its finest. And I think the argument that you make with that, like, number one, the conferences are different. The strength of the conferences are different.
Right.
Number two, are you really telling me that you think that if SMU and Texas played right now, that SMU would beat the brakes off of Texas? No. That to me, that's a silly thing to say. That's just not something that's going to happen. Right. So again, I agree with you. You've got to look at a lot of factors. Yes, strength of schedule plays in, but the eyeball test goes in. There is going to be strength of conference that plays in. So
exactly.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned the strength of conference because it looks like the playoff committee projecting where they would be, where they'd be placing these. This is people's projections of what could happen based on what they're reading from the committee. So according to this, you have, Alabama, Ole Miss, Texas, and Tennessee, 4 SEC teams. You have Oregon, Penn State, Ohio State, and Indiana, 4 Big 10 teams, but they're only leaving room for 1 independent, 1 group of 5, 1 Big 12, and 1 ACC. Mm-hmm. So filling it so heavy with SEC and Big 10 leaves only 4 spots for everyone else. Do you think that's fair to? Because there has been some really competitive football in the take the Big 12, right?
Yeah.
You have BYU, you have Colorado on the rise right now. Should all of those teams be fighting for 1 spot?
Yeah. Look, I there is an argument to be made for that, right? Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, I don't think it makes sense for you to reserve X amount of spaces, right? Mm-hmm. You've got 1 space saved for every conference. Cool. I think that feels fair. Right. Some could argue that not every like the ACC is pretty weak right now. Does the ACC deserve to have 1 guaranteed champion in there? Right. I don't know that you can go by and say, all right, well, we're going to reserve 3 spots for each conference. Like that to me doesn't feel fair. That doesn't make sense. So, yeah, I can understand why some of the schools are griping about it and saying, oh, there's bias here. And why is this so SEC heavy? But at the end of the day, have a stronger conference, I mean,
be better.
Yeah, be better. Like if you want to have people, more teams in, eligible and more teams in the conversation, have stronger teams. And again, look, I'm rocking my Michigan State stuff today. I'm saying that as a team that sucks right now in the Big Ten, right? We'll have this conversation about Indiana. Do they deserve to be there? Is the Big Ten super strong? I don't know that you can argue that, right? And we've mentioned this as well before. The parity in football is the opportunity to have better teams for these smaller teams. Take an SMU, for example. The opportunity for these schools to use the portal, to use NIL, and to elevate their teams, it's there.
Yeah.
It's there. And we're seeing that across football. So if you want to complain that you don't have enough of your conference's teams in there, well, get on your conference. Your team should be better. I don't know what else to tell you.
I would think so say Tennessee and Georgia, say Georgia beats Tennessee this weekend. Yeah, they're playing. Say Georgia beats Tennessee this weekend. Tennessee is a 3-loss team now. They're out. And that I would rather have say Miami and SMU go toe to toe in the ACC championship game or something like that. I would love to see 2 really good teams get a spot. I as much as I want to say, SEC conference or Big Ten conference, there's some other good football being played, but then if you put them in, watch them lose by 60.
Well, that's the thing.
But you don't know unless you play them.
I think, I agree with that. Like, play the game, but at the end of the day, there's always going to be someone left out. I don't care if you have a 4-team, playoff, you have 12-team. If you expand it to a 64-team playoff, there's still going to be somebody pissed off, feeling like they're not ranked where they should be. So, and Lawson, yeah, man, you bring up a great point here. It's also a right now ranking. Teams from weaker conferences are less likely to lose, while some of the teams will certainly take the loss. Yeah, absolutely. How do you factor that in? Let's talk about that SEC bias, right? If you've got a really powerful conference and your guys are going round and round beating each other up, I think this goes back to the conversation that we just had about, Cannell's comments. Are you really telling me that you think SMU is going to match up against Texas right now and be a better team and just beat the brakes off Texas? No. I don't think so. So you have to take that into consideration too. What are they doing in their conference? And of course, you can only work with the schedule that you're given. But how have they won? The quality of the wins, does it pass the eyeball test? And let's start having those conversations. Look at some other matchups. Okay, so they're doing really great in their conference, but how would they really line up against other teams from other conferences? Yeah, I think that's a really good point.
Yeah. So let's compare this to what we used to have, the BCS standings, where they would take into account coaches voting. Yeah. Oh, what a mess. So BCS Know-How put together the side-by-side simulation of what it would be if the college football playoff committee compared to BCS. And it is pretty spot on, taking into account strength of schedule and all those win losses and on the road and margin of victory and all those things. So Oregon, Ohio State, Texas, Penn State, Indiana, the top 5 are the same. A little, move around Tennessee, BYU, no big deal. Notre Dame, and then the rest are kind of pretty similar. So for the most part, they're getting it right. They're getting it similar to what it used to be anyway.
That's a funny thing.
Whether or not it's right, they're getting it similar to what it used to be anyway.
Yeah, that's the funny thing. I mean, it just kind of goes back to the old adage: the more things change, the more they stay the same. Yeah. The BCS, everybody griped about that and how unfair and biased it was. So okay, we moved to a different system. We have playoffs. All right, let's do that. Let's have a college. Oh, now there's not enough. Now we got to consider more teams, and we're right back to where we started, aren't we?
Yeah,
aren't we? But yeah, look, Texas A&M, you're sitting right where people think you should.
It's funny. It's funny. It's like, because Texas, they had a bye week, they moved up. They had a bye week, they moved up. Yeah. Things are happening all around them, and they move up. And A&M, people are losing and winning around them. They just hang on at 15. And then it's funny because in this one, simulated and committee, they would still be 15. So that's good. They're still in the bubble. They know if they went out there in the playoffs, they have a shot of being in the playoffs still too. So
at the end of the day, most of these teams right now still control their own destiny.
Yes.
Right. Texas is certainly in the driver's seat with their season. A&M is in the driver's seat with their season. You work with what you got, you win out, then it stops being a discussion. It stops being a question. That's for sure.
So that's pretty interesting. So we have the broader playoff picture. You mentioned Indiana's schedule being weak. I like that you wanted to share this tweet about their schedule. And Lawson, you mentioned that Indiana still hasn't beaten a bowl eligible team. Well, here's the stat. Go ahead, Megan.
Right. So Texas getting all this heat for, who have they really played? Again, you work with what you got, and the way that the season works, it's considered a ranked win if you beat them when they're ranked, right? Yes, you got to look at where those teams end up at the end of the day, but that's not really how it works. Right now, Indiana has 0 wins over bowl eligible teams. So Bama has 4, Ole Miss has 3 wins, Texas A&M has 3 wins, Texas has 2 wins over ranked teams, Georgia has 2, South Carolina has 2. Bowl eligible. Yeah. South Carolina has 2, Mizzou has 2, LSU has 2, Tennessee has 1. So comparing that to Indiana, in Indiana, you're getting a lot of bump, right? For the record that you have, you're undefeated so far, right? Or they won.
They're undefeated, yeah. But they're dominating the teams that they play.
Right. So
that's all you can do.
Right. Yeah. So that's factoring in. Indiana's doing what they have to do. But again, like, there is some nuance to the conversation. There's some nuance to the argument. Does the SEC get an unfair bias? Maybe, but they're also winning. Teams that are beating up on each other in the SEC are still winning against teams that are bowl eligible. Right. So, I think that goes into consideration too. Again, I don't know if there's ever going to be a perfect scenario. I don't see any situation or any ranking system that every single person that's in it is going to go, you know what? That feels about right. That feels good.
Well, you know what? No matter who you play, getting 10 straight wins and being undefeated is a huge accomplishment. This is the first time Indiana's ever done it.
Right.
And right now, there's only a couple of teams that are still undefeated, just a handful. So it's a huge accomplishment, and they'll get Ohio State soon. So they'll not this week, but next week they have an opportunity to handle business and show that they are, beating up on all these little teams has helped them, or it has not prepared them. So we'll see.
Yeah.
All right. So let's take a look real quick. One more thing, and then we'll start making some picks for the weekend. This is a QBR rating for the best quarterbacks in the country. So take a look at it. Kind of flows with who's winning right now. And who are the best quarterbacks, right? So Cam Ward, they're 9-1 now. Indiana undefeated. Oregon, Dylan Gabriel at Oregon undefeated. Jackson Dart at Ole Miss playing their best ball now. Mm-hmm. Jalen Milroe playing their best ball now. I was surprised to see Baylor's quarterback there.
Yeah.
Ranked so high, with his QBR, but I don't know what's happening with them. Will Howard, Ohio State up there. So, let's go find a Texas quarterback. Quinn Ewers, number 36.
Not hanging in there.
QBR 71.5. You take out a couple of those early interceptions, which you can't do because they affect the game.
Right.
But if you take out those early interceptions, some struggling recovering, coming back from that injury, he has an opportunity to play his best ball now when it matters the most. So, right. So that's also has affected why, he's dropped down. But we've kind of looked at the quarterback coming up this weekend, Taylon Green with Arkansas. And where is he? I think he's just below Quinn Ewers. There he is, number 48.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and again, Green has gone through the injury bug too as well, yes. Right? And again, we know that injuries play a role in any season.
Right.
It's just the nature of the beast with the sport. And I think you've got to take that into consideration too. With as fickle as the Texas fan base can be, sorry guys, we are. That's just how we are. Never us, right?
Not me.
You do see a lot of knee-jerk reactions and what have you done for me lately kind of reactions, right? And I think that's something that we saw we have seen with Quinn Ewers. He's gotten some of that criticism, maybe a little unfairly. But talking about the injury bug, it's now kind of coming to light that maybe Quinn Ewers was hurt a little bit more than we thought he was when he made his return. But I think we're starting to see that healthy Quinn Ewers come back. I'm wondering if that's something that we're going to see with Green, right? We know that he's kind of battled that injury bug a little bit. We'll talk about that more as we dive into the Arkansas Texas game coming up. And we'll certainly pick it apart, talk about that a little bit more. But before we do that, let's talk about college football matchups this weekend.
All right.
Are there any that just tickle you, get you excited?
There's a lot of good ones. So let's talk about who's on their bye week, because we know that that matters. Indiana, number 5 in the BCS playoff committee's rankings, number 5. They are 10-0. Next week they are going to what in the world is my computer talking to me? They are going to Ohio State next week, so they have the bye week to prepare, but they have to go into Buckeye Stadium. So that'll be exciting. Number 9, Miami, they're 9-1. They're going to sit on that loss to Georgia Tech for the bye week, and that always stinks, right?
For sure.
11, Ole Miss. They have 2 losses, but they finished with that big win against Georgia at home, so they should be feeling good while they're on the bye week. LSU just took 2 losses back-to-back, and now they're on their bye week, so they're sitting on 2 L's for the bye week. They lost big to Aggie and Alabama at home. They were at home for that one. And then Army, still undefeated, and they get Notre Dame next week. They get to host Notre Dame at Army. Beautiful, beautiful campus, beautiful stadium.
Yeah.
So that will be big time implications for playoff rankings or opportunity, because both of they're still alive. Technically, Army is still alive for a shot at the playoffs.
Let me ask you this. Do you think at this point, at this stage of the game and the way that the conferences are panning out, should Notre Dame have to join a conference? Should they be strong-armed into joining a conference at this point?
Why? They get to sit out while everyone else is taking another loss. For half the teams in the conference championships are taking another loss.
Yeah.
They're sitting at home with, why? Why would they have to? They have established games each year that they play. Why would they have to? They have a strong enough schedule.
I think you made the argument for why they should, right? Because they sit out. They don't undergo the grueling, right? That extra game. They get extra rest time.
That's why they shouldn't.
That's why in their minds they should.
Yeah, exactly.
But what I'm saying is the rest of the world, if they want to participate in the playoffs, should they be, if they're not going to join, okay, cool. Should they be treated like a G5 school? Again, you're not in a conference. You don't have to go through the battles. I agree. They schedule well for not being in a conference.
Yeah.
But they still don't have to go through the additional steps, the additional game of a conference playoff. They don't have to contend with that. And they don't have that weighing in on the factors to being considered for the playoffs. To me, I think that gives them a little bit of an unfair advantage compared to every other school that's in a Power 4 conference.
I would say that if they didn't along the way beat ranked teams, like Aggies are going to finish a top 12 to 15 team, maybe top 10 if they beat Texas at the end of the year. They would have gone into College Station and beaten them. They would have beaten an undefeated Army. They have good wins along the way. So I would say if Notre Dame finishes even with, they have 1 loss now, the stupid loss at home to NIU.
Right.
That's terrible. If they finish the season 10-2 but they look really strong, and it's up to the committee if their eyeballs think they could compete at this level still. But if they're 11-1 with a pretty decent resume compared to Indiana's resume or something, but Lawson asked what would happen if Indiana ends up with no wins against a single bowl, but they're only lost to Ohio State by 20. So if they lose to Ohio State, that would probably put Ohio State and Oregon, as long as they both stay winning, into the Big Ten championship game. So Indiana would finish the season 11-1 with not having to do that Big Ten championship weekend. So they would be a 1-loss team. How do you keep them out?
Yeah.
Because going into Ohio State, they're going to have some grace if you get your butt kicked there. One loss. Yeah.
I do feel like in that scenario, though, again, you're talking about a team. Let's pull in the strength of schedule. Let's look at the quality of the wins that they have, right? I think the argument does come in. I think if that scenario plays out, if Indiana ends up with no wins against a single bowl eligible team and their only losses to Ohio State by a lot, I think you see a pretty disproportionate tumble in the rankings for Indiana. Because again, we're talking football is a very what have you done for me lately kind of thing, especially when you're looking at the rankings in the playoffs. The argument, again, could be made. And this is, once more, people aren't going to be happy no matter what happens. But the argument could be made, you don't have those quality wins. And you're in a conference that isn't as strong as some other conferences this year, right? So do you deserve to be there over the SMUs? Do you deserve to be there over other teams like that? That's when, to me, you have to start looking at, well, how do I think, looking at the eyeball test and looking at how they've played and the strength of that team, how does it match up against other teams in the same area? Like we posed the question earlier, do you really think SMU would match up against Texas right now? I sure don't. You'd have to start asking those questions. Does Indiana match up against some of the teams that they're ranked around?
The Big Ten is top heavy, but it is still, I think it's still a conference that is competing, with top heavy teams like SEC is competing. I think that they would get enough respect for the overall schedule and doing stuff they've never done before as a program. And their offense is, electric and putting up massive points per game. So they have wins over teams that they've never beaten, like Michigan. Like it's a special year, whether or not they can hang on and beat Ohio State. Odds of them winning that game and getting into the Big Ten championship, all they have after that is Purdue, and Purdue hasn't beaten anyone. So I would say they have if they can get past Ohio State, they're in the Big Ten championship. If they don't, they'll only be probably only be a one-loss team. And that's respectful enough to get in.
Yeah, I think we learn a lot about them when they play Ohio State, right? That's truly a test.
Mm-hmm.
Ohio State's a strong team. They've been handling business. They've been consistently good.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that will be the first really big test that Indiana goes up against. You're right. They have beat teams like Michigan, which they haven't really done in the past. But we all know that Michigan isn't the Michigan that they were last year.
They're not. They're a terrible team this year.
So yeah. Again, we could bicker back and forth for sure. We can argue, but it is nuanced. I think at the end of the day, that's the conversation. It's not just going to be about definite, black, white, you're in, you're out because of X, Y, and Z. You've got to have these nuanced conversations and weigh all kinds of things. So yeah, really interesting there. But
all right, so let's look at the schedule on Saturday. We talked about who's not playing. Let's talk about who is playing. 11 a.m. games. We will make our Texas-Arkansas picks later after we break down everything we're looking at for that game. But Texas right now is 13.5-point favorites. So we'll make our picks for that later. Let's start with Ohio State. We'll just some will pick, some will just say they're happening.
Sure.
11 a.m. Number 2 Ohio State is going to Northwestern. We don't even need to pick this game. Ohio State are 4 touchdown favorites, so they should handle business. But let's pick this one: Utah at 17, Colorado.
Yeah.
We saw last week Colorado started slow with Texas Tech and then got on a roll and pulled away and won that game. And then there was the controversy of the Utah game against the holy war with BYU, right?
Yeah.
And their AD, saying they got cheated and stolen the game from them and this and that.
Right.
Do you think Utah is coming in hot to 17, Colorado coming in hot and a threat here to Colorado?
Again, Utah's one of those teams that I think there was higher expectations of them coming into what is not a very good Big 12 conference right now. Fun football to watch.
Fun.
Not a great conference right now, but I think they're going to come in with a chip on their shoulder for sure. I think Utah's going to come in mad. They've been fed the line that they cheated. The world's against them, right? So they're going to, I think they'll have that attitude, but I'm going to say this. I do think Colorado is starting to get on a roll here. And I think things are maybe starting to click for Colorado.
Okay.
So
11.5
point favorite at Colorado in Boulder. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm going to say Colorado takes this one. I think it's closer early, but I think like we saw against Texas Tech, I think Colorado finds a groove. They get into it, and I think they pull away in this, and I do think they cover.
Okay. I have Colorado winning, but not covering because I think Utah has enough defense to stay with them. But what an opportunity for Colorado to really separate themselves in the Big 12 hunt. All right, number 20, Clemson against Pittsburgh. Ever since Pittsburgh was undefeated and then got drilled by SMU, they've dropped 2 games, and now they are not favored at home. Clemson is favored to come in and beat them by 10. Do you think they have any life left, Pittsburgh, or just?
Yeah, I think Pittsburgh's playing for pride right now. And honestly, I think they're still a decent team. I think Clemson consistently, and maybe this is my bias coming into it, I always think Clemson is overrated.
Yeah.
And, so looking at this, Clemson favored by 10, I think this is upset alert technically. I think Pittsburgh takes this game.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I think Pittsburgh is broken leg left for dead. They were rolling and now they're not. All right. So Tulane, this is just top 25 games. Tulane is going to Navy. Navy got drilled by Notre Dame when they were undefeated. Now Tulane is favorites at Navy. Alabama at 1 p.m. You can watch top 10 Alabama take on Mercer.
Cool.
There's not even a line on this game.
Cool.
I didn't even see a line on this game. How can they be allowed? But anyway, that's another conversation.
SEC, baby.
That's another conversation. I love that Texas will not play FCS teams. Mm-hmm. Doesn't matter if it's September, October, November, December. Texas is not going to play an FCS team. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, this is for Penn State at Purdue. Purdue is terrible. Penn State 28-point favorites. We don't have to pick that. Just so we know, in the afternoon games, Virginia is going to 8 Notre Dame. Also 3 touchdown favorites. Boston College at SMU. Louisville at Stanford. Who cares? Those are all massive spreads. Yeah. But this is a good one. Coming off the bye week and 2 losses, LSU, right? They got their butt kicked by Alabama. They got their butt kicked bye. Why do I have them as a bye week? They are not on a bye week this week. They are actually playing. Sorry.
Yeah.
They are 6-3, back-to-back losses, and now they get to go to Florida. LSU are 4.5-point favorites. We saw Florida up close last week. They have some talent. They can run the ball. They have NFL on skill on defense. What do you think about that, LSU at Florida?
Yeah, I think this is another one that boils down to that injury report. Is Lagway back in? Is Lagway going to be QBing for Florida? I think yes, I think Florida takes this one. And again, it's because it's disappointing to see. Florida has a lot of potential. They've got talent. They just haven't really been playing well together. Haven't quite been clicking. But they had some, there were some games that they played close. So again, given that this is at Florida, I would say if Lagway is in, I think Florida takes this game. Upset alert, right? If not, I'm going to stick with LSU. So I know that's playing at Tuesday.
Lagway is listed as questionable,
right? Which he was listed as questionable for Texas as well. So I was a little surprised that they didn't shoot him up and shove him into the Texas game. Listen, I'm not agreeing with it.
That is why the AD released that statement that Napier's job was secure last week, right about the time they were pushing. Should they have to get him out there? Or do they have to keep saying Lagway practice today?
Don't further the injury.
Yeah. So now he knows there's no pressure that he has to push their future quarterback, incredible talent. They don't have to force him too soon. His job is secure.
Yeah, I think with Lagway,
so they say.
Well, yeah, and I think with Lagway, though, we still haven't really heard how severe the injury is, right? Kind of throwing back, when Dak Prescott first went out, it was a hamstring injury, right? And then we found out it was something much more severe, still a hamstring injury, but required season-ending surgery.
Right.
I don't think Lagway is in that position. I don't think it's that severe because he has been practicing.
Right.
But how quick can you come back comfortably from a hammy?
Yeah,
right?
but saying he has been practicing, he could have stood out there,
thrown
the ball a couple times, and then hobbled back off.
Look at him practice.
And you tell the media, he practiced
Sure.
today. He's looking better than yesterday.
Sure.
Of course he did, because yesterday he only threw one pass. Today he threw two.
Right.
Yeah. So
that is improvement.
It is improvement. He's getting more work in today.
Yeah.
It's all coach speak, but they're supposed to be honest on those reports. So as of now, he's questionable, which is not probable, but okay.
Yeah, agreed. I like I said, I think if Lagway is in, that changes the dynamic of this game. Right now, I'm going with LSU. Just assuming that Lagway's not playing.
I think Aiden Warner, that QB the QB they brought out there last night. Poor guy.
Their Yale QB.
Yeah, poor guy. So his parents went to Florida. That's all.
Who do you have winning that game?
Nobody.
Everyone's a loser in that game.
I don't know. I guess LSU because Lagway's questionable.
Yeah.
All right. So Missouri 3-15-23 Missouri. This is exciting. We've seen Missouri survive OU. They've gotten their butt kicked by the Aggies and Alabama. Missouri 21 at number 21 South Carolina. I'm excited to see that South Carolina are 12-point favorites. I'm saving South Carolina rolls. They are a hot team right now. I say they win and cover 12.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you on this one. I think with Missouri, they're another team that had really high expectations coming into the season and just absolutely have not performed up to those expectations. I think at South Carolina, and in South Carolina, they look like dogs against A&M. I mean, they were playing some good football. That was an absolute ass whooping against them. So
they were not scared.
Yeah, absolutely. So South Carolina, once again, getting hot at the right time of the season. So yeah, I agree with you. I think South Carolina takes this, and I do think they cover that 12-point spread.
Yeah, we saw when we watched Missouri OU last week, they took football back 400 years. It was so bad. And if it wasn't for the El Scoop and Score, we like pushing the Spanish broadcast. It wasn't for those last minute craziness, chaos, there would have been no points on that board. So Missouri struggles to put points up. South Carolina is putting points up. So I will take them and the points. Yes, 12. All right, 6 p.m., Boise State at San Jose State, Arizona State at Kansas State. Oregon's going into Wisconsin. It's just so weird, Oregon going into Wisconsin.
Yeah, in that classic Big Ten match.
That Big Ten classic of green and yellow, neon pencils against Wisconsin. Anyway, 2 touchdown favorites. They should be fine. Okay, here's a good one. These are the evening games. 6:30 p.m. There is controversy of whether or not this quarterback is even playing. Tennessee at 12 Georgia.
Yeah, this one's
a lot on the line. What do you think?
This one's an interesting one to me too. I think Georgia's really maybe gotten unfairly punished. Now, again, can I use that term unfairly? They do have the 3 losses, right? They have two in conference, 3 losses overall, right?
No, they have just the 2 losses. Yeah.
All right. Well, either way, look, I think Georgia has tumbled more than we expected. Some question of why is Texas at number 3 and Georgia all the way dropped down?
Let me double check. Go ahead.
Yeah, because of how Georgia came in and performed in Austin. So with that in mind, I do think Georgia is going to be a focused football team. I think they've, once again, coming in this game feeling slighted. They're playing behind the hedges.
Yeah, they only have the 2 losses.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think that this is another one where we're going to see some really good football, but I'm giving a lot of credit to the home field advantage here and that chip on the shoulder. Georgia favored by 10. I think Georgia wins, but I think this is a really close one. It's going to be right around that 10 points. Man, I'll say it with my chest, I guess. We'll put it out there. I think Georgia's going to take this by 13 points. So cover, but barely.
Wow.
And again, I think this is going to be some late game antics that cross over that threshold. How about you?
All right. So here, this is funny. So we all know the Bear. He used to be on the game day and giving his picks. He says Nico, with the Tennessee quarterback, is not expected to play because concussion protocol. And then Shannon Terry quote tweets him, he is playing. Quote tweets him, says he is playing. So is he not playing? Is he playing? What's really happening there? That's
Are the on 3 guys going to wrist slap it out?
Yeah, that I need to see their availability.
Yeah, but even then, I mean, Nico is an incredible talent, a really great quarterback, but
he's getting exposed a little.
Yeah, and that's it. He's really
young.
He is, and I think teams are starting to know how to scheme against him. I think they're starting to know how to put pressure on him. It doesn't help that you got your noggin knocked pretty hard. So yeah, I think Georgia takes this one. I think Tennessee, with a healthy Nico and with a confident Nico, it might be a different discussion. But right now, where they're at in the season, I just don't know that Tennessee has enough to finish this out strong.
As of last night, injury report, he is listed as questionable.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna even if he plays, he'll probably be limited. Yeah. So I'm going Georgia.
Yeah.
Georgia needs this too. If they take another loss, they are out of the playoff. Any
Conversation
playoff talks
together, yeah.
Any playoff talks. Tennessee has 1 loss. They can afford a second loss. They had that embarrassing loss at Arkansas, right? Mm-hmm. So they can afford another loss and be in that 8-way tie for the 2 lost teams that could happen, right? That could still happen. So I think Georgia playing on the ropes, playing at home, and with the limited Nico, if he plays at all, I'm going to say Georgia wins and probably pulls away at the end and covers too. Is that what you said?
That is what I said.
Oh, there you go. Aggies, they have this big home field environment, right? Night game, 6:45 p.m. and the fighting New Mexico State Aggies are coming.
It's Aggie on Aggie hate happening this weekend in Kyle
39-point favorites at home. Have they scored 39 at all this year? Okay. New Mexico State.
Got that love. Yeah, they always do that. New Mexico State's pretty consistently on their schedule. Aggies versus Aggies. Again, this is one of those matchups. Tamu has them come in. Here's a bunch of money. Take your butt whipping.
Yeah.
Enjoy your program.
Well, but they also thought that with App State and some other teams that have come in. All right. True. And for the rest of the night, 18 Washington State. Wow. They won the 2-POC conference.
Yep.
Washington State has New Mexico, and then another pretty good one. This was on I did an upset alert poll. Who did they think was on upset alert?
Okay.
Texas or BYU or a couple other games. LSU, who was upset alert? The winner was BYU being on upset alert with Kansas coming to down because Kansas is on a little bit of a roll. They're playing better ball. BYU has been surviving and advancing. Mm-hmm. They are 3-point favorites at home, which is that field goal home field.
Kind of a wash, really.
Yeah.
This one surprises me a little bit. Again, BYU being ranked number 6. If you really have that much confidence in this team to put them at 6, but you're only going to favor them by 3 against an unranked Kansas team. Yeah. Is there trouble brewing with BYU? Again, that close game in the Holy War against Utah, maybe getting a favorable call to help put them over and come from behind to win that game in a really close one. I think maybe what we're seeing a little bit here is BYU going to be suffering from fatigue from that game? Are they going to be worn out? Did they kind of get overly excited for that and now just trying to recover and potentially overlooking Kansas?
All right.
So yeah, I think that's going to be a close one for sure. But I have to take BYU in this. I
At
like
home,
Kansas.
the home field.
Yeah, I agree. I like Kansas and I like what they have done in the past, but Kansas they haven't kind of completed that role that they started to get on a couple years ago. So yeah, I'm taking BYU in this one, and I think they cover.
Yeah, I would think Daniel's coming back with with his 10th, 12th year as a quarterback there.
Right.
And they've won 2 of the last 3. Their only loss was at rival Kansas State by 2 points. They're putting up good points, 35, 38, 42, 45. They're getting their offense rolling. I'm going to call upset alert on this one too. That was my pick when I put the poll up, that I was like, of the teams, because upsets are going to happen this weekend. They happen every weekend. Of the teams that are playing, I would say most likely to be upset is going to be BYU. And I'm going to go ahead and make that my upset alert. BYU losing to Kansas. Why not?
You heard it here first.
Why not? Someone's got to upset. Who's going to be your upset? Because there needs to be an upset every weekend.
Yeah.
Look at this schedule that we have. Who's on upset alert?
Oh, man. I thought I had one earlier, but you caught me off guard with that question.
Oh, sorry.
No, that's all right.
We didn't really pick any upsets going through.
Yeah, I mean, technically, yeah, I thought I picked one earlier, but you asked me to look at a bunch of stuff now, and I'm
okay. Sorry, never mind.
Pittsburgh's one that I called upset.
Well, Pittsburgh is already. You said Pittsburgh was going to beat Clemson. Okay, that's your upset. Yeah, that's good.
Yep.
Okay, good. I'm like, because there has to be upsets every week, right?
For sure.
Okay, so anything else on this?
No, I think we're good. Yeah.
To Texas talk.
Yeah. So in the next hour, we've got a lot of Texas talk. We're going to cover the full game. We're going to talk about the matchups, Texas's strengths, Arkansas's strengths, and what each team needs to do to pull this out. But before we do that, we want to go ahead and showcase a good friend of ours, Land here. Again, if you guys are looking for a wonderful Texas experience and a getaway, look no further than the Rock and Diamond S Ranch. Settled on 120 acres in the beautiful hill country near Johnson City. It's just a quick drive to Austin or San Antonio. The property sleeps 14 with 1 primary home and 2 fully furnished cabins where you can go wildlife watching, fishing, play with the Longhorns, and enjoy wonderful and spacious indoor and outdoor eating and cooking. It's only 5 minutes from downtown Blanco with breweries, eateries, distilleries, shopping, and more. If you are looking for a place to go during this Thanksgiving, bring the whole family. You've got space for them there. Again, you've got to check out Rockin' Diamond S Ranch. That's rockindiamondsranch.com, or give our friend Chuck Smith a call at 512-694-1969 and reserve your perfect Texas weekend today. Tell him Fire the Cannon sent you, and he'll take extra good care of you.
Yep. Here's the contact info. You can message Chuck Smith. Here's his info if you want to screen capture that and message him. And he does the availability for Thanksgiving.
Yep.
He has space coming up for the holidays. That's amazing.
Right. That's right.
All right, Megan. The rivalry is back.
The rivalry is back.
Arkansas, Texas, and Arkansas. And this is one of those rivalries because they haven't played in a while and because we don't really compete with them for the top recruits or things like that, that it has, for a lot of people, it has fallen into the wayside for me. Like I've never, and we can discuss this. Yes, they are a rival, but on the list of the things that I think about in a year of sports, Arkansas is just not there. They're not on my list. We love to hate OU. We love to hate the Aggies because when we play OU and the Aggies, it usually means something. For years, playing OU, it meant who's going to the BCS, championship, or who's going to the Big 12 championship, or things like that. And then later, Aggies, you're competing for, even though we haven't played, competing for top recruits. We're competing for, social media, this and that, right? Arkansas is just way down the list for me. They can hate me all day, every day. They can buy my stickers and put them upside down. They can do all those things. I'm indifferent to Arkansas. They can hate me all day, and I just don't care about them.
I appreciate that. There are a lot of people that Texas plays that I don't think about, that I don't care about. I would argue that Arkansas has been a rival with us, even when we haven't played them. Baseball, they've had they made a national title run just a couple years ago. So Arkansas baseball has been consistently good and a really good conference. They've had some flares with basketball. They're good at soccer. Again, football's been up or down. We know that's the main rival that we're going to talk about. But for me, it's all about the feeling of hatred. When we played Arkansas, I hated their fans. I hated their team. That has not dulled over time. I still hate their fans. I still hate their team. I am not a fan of Arkansas. Now, I agree. I don't stay up awake at night worrying about the pigs.
I don't hate them more than I love myself.
Agreed.
Like they
but
do.
Agreed. And I don't hate any of our rivals more than I love Texas.
Yeah.
No question there. But Arkansas, to me, and this is one that I had to work on you for a little bit. Now that we play them again, I think you're kind of swaying back into the maybe they're a rival.
Nope.
All right. Well, we want to hear from y'all. Is Arkansas a rival for Texas? I want to hear that.
I think they consider us their rival. I do not consider them my rival.
I don't care who.
There's 15 teams that say Texas is their rival.
I don't care who considers Texas their rival.
Yeah.
I want to know, do Texas fans, do you consider Arkansas a rival? For me, absolutely.
They're way down the list.
Old Southwest Conference days, see, for me, they're right up there. I have OU, A&M, Arkansas in that order.
I have OU, A&M, probably 400 other schools. And then
who would you put above Arkansas?
Texas Tech.
Really?
Yes. As a rival?
I don't care about Tech at all.
No, I don't care about them either. They're still way down. To me, that's OU and Texas. And then a bunch of schools that hate us. Like that doesn't matter to me. I don't compete with them for the best recruits. I don't compete with them for, media time. I don't compete with them for anything that really matters to the University of Texas.
I would disagree with that. For baseball, for soccer, I would disagree with that. And Arkansas,
Texas just eliminated them in the soccer championship.
They did. Arkansas does actually offer, as a school, they offer in-state tuition to Texas students. So pretty interesting. I consider Arkansas a rival. I'm going to keep working on you on this.
You won't keep working. I will never care about them. They can call me a rival all day. I just they don't affect my day.
Well, all right. Let's look at this a little bit. We know that Arkansas hates Texas. We know that has been a thing that runs courses deep in their veins, that hatred for Texas. And I think that's something that Sark has come to learn in his time here. That first year he was here, we played a pretty not great game in Fayetteville.
It was awful.
Did not go Texas's way on any level. I don't think that you could say there's not really any place in the game that you could point out that, Texas outperformed Arkansas. And they weren't even a great Arkansas team too. So Sark mentioned that and he said, man, I get it now.
Be underrated nationally. I don't know if it's going to get the same exposure that it would nationally, but I will tell you internally, it's getting the same amount that's needed, that it deserves. And this rivalry's been going on for a long time. I was joking with the team this morning. I don't know what Darrell Royal did to Arkansas back in the day, but they absolutely hate our guts. And I think we learned that the first time around when we went there. You watch some of the clips at the end of that game, and Joe Tessitore is talking about that Arkansas, hates Texas more than they like themselves. And he might be right. So I think from our perspective, internally we understand and value this rivalry, and it's great to have back. It's great for the state of Texas. It's great for the state of Arkansas. I wish nationally it probably got the exposure that this thing deserves. There's been some great games historically that these two teams have butted heads on, and so obviously we're looking forward to the opportunity.
They hate Texas more than they like or love themselves.
Yeah,
that's fine. So
I'm just saying.
I mean, there's something about, I think rivalry, you got to really, really hate each other.
I hate Arkansas.
Yeah,
Texas hates Arkansas.
but a lot of people I know don't think about them, don't care about them.
I think that's going to change. If you're not one of the old heads that lived through that crap with the SEC the Southwest Conference. I mean, I know you were there.
I was there. Yeah, I never cared
I just think you're in the minority for this one, but we'll see.
I don't know.
I think your
a lot of
opinions will
people
change.
just don't care. Remember we did that poll? It's like half and half. Like, I hate them. They're a rival. Other people were like, who?
I think that'll shift. All right. Well, so Sark's certainly knowing that this is going to be a hostile environment. At the beginning of the season, before we played down a football, I had Arkansas circled as a potential trap game for Texas. I think Arkansas has been a team, again, that's been a little up and down this season. They've showed some flashes, beating Tennessee, but then they've had some pretty big losses, some lopsided losses as well.
That's their only loss. That's their only win against a good team.
Right. So they've had some inconsistencies there, but don't underestimate how much that hatred is going to fuel them. Like we saw a few years ago, the first year that Sark was with Texas, I would argue that Texas had a more talented team for sure that year. But I would say it was pure hatred that got Arkansas fired up and ready for that game.
It could be.
So again, it's 11 a.m. kick time. So do you think that's going to factor into how this game plays out, having that early that early environment versus an all day environment?
Absolutely. Two things. One, Sark says they love the 11 a.m. kicks.
Yeah.
He says it's his favorite time to kick off is 11 a.m. So if he says that, great. I hope it is their favorite time.
That's the case.
I also hope it makes it just like Texas crowd last Saturday morning was a little bit sleepy-ish at 11 a.m. I really, really, really hope that they are just a little bit sleepier than they might have been at 7 p.m. They are fired up starting 2 weeks ago about this game. They had, the bye week to prepare and try to get healthy. We'll talk about their injury report in just a sec, but the availability report. Yeah. So I would just say 11 a.m. for sure has to help a little bit.
Yeah, I think it'll, I don't know. I'm hesitant to say it'll help or have an effect on the game. I do think there will be a difference. And I think most of that difference is how vitriolic is the crowd to Texas fans that'll be there, right? I don't know that they're going to be quieter per se. I will agree with you. I thought Texas's crowd was flat against Florida. I thought they were quiet. I thought they could have done a lot better. I don't know that we're going to see that kind of flat line with Arkansas. Certainly not in the first quarter. Right before Texas starts putting that butt whooping on them, I think they're going to be loud and obnoxious for sure. So
so you're saying butt whooping?
We'll see. I don't know. Maybe in the first quarter.
The spread started at 17 and it came down to 13.5. Why do you think it came down? Why do you think people are buying into Arkansas and bringing that number down?
Well, I think, again, Arkansas is one of those teams that can be really dangerous. They're not going to win the SEC by any means. They're not going to, probably not making the playoffs here, but they are a team that can fall into things and mess things up. Right. Again, ask Tennessee about that. And that was when Tennessee was playing good football. Again, Nico was on. Teams hadn't quite figured them out yet. And Arkansas came in and played a really good game against them. So I think that Arkansas is going to show up, and I think people are buying into that. I think that old rivalry is coming back, that old hatred's coming back, and there's the potential. Again, there's some questions about Texas too. Now, Texas had a great game against Florida. They put it on them. They beat them soundly the way that they should. But there were some, again, you're playing against a third string quarterback. Is Texas really up for it? Is Quinn Ewers really back? Is he really healthy? Is he really going to make smart decisions? Are we going to get, once, like we talked before, are we going to get that Michigan Quinn Ewers versus the OU or Georgia Quinn Ewers? Right. So I think that those questions are playing with that line a little bit and playing into it. How about you? What do you think on that? What do you think is the cause for the change?
I would say the biggest key in the line moving is probably Taylon Green's health, going from, leaving the game, not coming back at halftime of the last game, and then returning, having the bye week, and then the reports that he is, we'll look at the injury report in just a second, but the report that he is probable in the report. But let's look at the spread. So it started, it says 16.5 here open. We saw 17-ish. And it's right now it's sitting at 13.5 with Texas about an 86% chance of winning that game. The over under 57.5. So they're not expecting a, shootout here. They're expecting some defense and controlling the clock, and we'll talk about what the keys to the game are here. So I would think the biggest change in that spread was probably the health of Taylon Green. So let's look at the injury report. And of course, for Texas, the same players we've seen. Derek Williams, we know he's out for the season. Christian Clark and Baxter have been out since before the season. Gardner, another running back. Maurice Blackwell, out. That's new. The linebacker,
doubtful.
Thank you. As doubtful. Colton Vasek, doubtful. So it goes out, doubtful, questionable, probable, and then they're not on the list after that. So Arkansas has Taylon Green, probable, and also I think Jaquindon Jackson, leading rusher for the team. Well, Taylon Green, leading rusher. He's up there with Jaquindon Jackson, who was a quarterback signee at Texas, right? He's probable too. So two of their top players moving to up to probable. That will definitely affect the line.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think you hit the nail on the head there. Arkansas, it is anticipated that Arkansas is going to have some key players back. Green really can be a game changer for them. I think the thing too, and we'll dive into the numbers here and look at this, but there have been some questions about Texas. We know that their pass defense lights out. They're playing really well. Can Texas stop the run? Is Texas in a position? There might have been some little kinks in the armor there coming up. Is Texas going to be able to stop the run against Green? Like you mentioned, they've got two of their leading rushers potentially back. Is Texas going to be able to handle that?
Yeah, let's look at the rushing efficiency for the SEC. So right now, our buddy SEC Mike posted, this is the SEC rushing efficiency going into week 12. This is their national rankings. Arkansas is up there, top 10 rushing efficiency. Texas 61. Oh, that's mid, but we know about the injuries and the rotation and stuff. But rush defense, Texas is ranked number 28 in rush defense. So not top 10 like they are in other categories. Total scoring defense, top 4. But rushing defense, 28. Do you think that's going to be something that's got to give here? Arkansas's rushing efficiency and Texas's rush defense?
Yeah, look, I think this is going to be one of those games where we really find out, is Texas defense the real deal? Are they going to step up to the challenge? Again, looking at this, Texas gave up almost 200 yards rushing against Florida, against an injured Florida, right? So that is something that I have concerns about. Can Texas effectively stop the run and force Arkansas to be one-dimensional?
Right.
I do think this is something has to give. Now, looking at the matchups, looking at what we've seen in the past, knowing that we have guys like Vernon Broughton back, again, got over that half game suspension for the hit in Vandy. But I think Texas full on, and once again, I want to bring up the injury report or the probability or whatever. I think that Texas isn't missing anybody that we didn't know was already going to be out for the rest of the season.
Right.
So this is a relatively healthy Texas team coming back. I think
no new starters.
Correct. Yeah. Right. There's key pieces, key guys that are in that have performed well, do well. Our starters are there. Again, taking away the guys that we knew were going to be out for the rest of the season. So, I think Texas is going to match up well here. I think the defense is going to be really stiff, and I think they're going to find a way. Again, I think, PK is going to find a way to stop that run. How about you? What are you thinking on this?
The Taylon Green is the biggest question mark. Sorry. Yeah, that's all right. The Taylon Green availability, of course, is the biggest issue. If he does come back, how limited is he? He is so mobile, so explosive. He's one of their top rush. He is their top. No, he's their second top leading rusher. So only by a couple of yards. 105 carries for 411 yards, 3.9 yards per carry. The leading rusher, Jaquindon Jackson, one less carry, but for much more yards. So he has the most carries. He takes off running more than anyone. Yeah. So we've talked about in the past that UTSD, that paranoia about dual threat, like legit dual threat quarterbacks, mobile quarterbacks. For the most part this year, even though Texas hasn't seen someone who is as complete and as explosive and big and strong as a fully healthy Taylon Green, they have had to manage dual threat quarterbacks this season. We talked about Van Buren with Mississippi State and Hawkins with OU. And we talked about Pavia, and with Vanderbilt. So they have had to face these mobile dual threat who look to keep the play alive to throw, right? So we've seen that. And I think the question is going to be, how limited is he? How much of the playbook is open? How much can he actually move around? I think we'll tell pretty early if they are limiting him or if he's just go and see what they can get from him. But he does. He is the top number 20 in the SEC rushing stats. Taylon Green, number 8 in the SEC is Jaquindon Jackson. Way down at number 20 and 22 are Wisner and Blue.
22 and 24 for Wisner.
22 and 24. Yeah.
I want to bring this up with Texas's rushing. For me, there's a little bit of concern. It felt like we couldn't really get moving. Texas ended up okay with the stats. I think we ended up with 210 yards rushing, but it felt like there should have been more at times. It felt like our guys, again, Wisner, not quite didn't have quite as impactful a game as he's had in the past. So I think a key for Texas here is going to be to use both Blue and Wisner well. Can they balance the carries there? Can they keep Arkansas on their toes? It's that 1-2 punch, right? If you focus on one guy, will the other guy pick up the mantle here?
Yeah. Receiving too, we know they have a big, strong receiver in Andrew Armstrong. He's one of the best in the SEC, number 2 in catches, 55 catches for 857 yards, 15.6 yards per catch. That is a big playmaker, explosive playmaker. it'll be interesting to see how Texas covers him with Jade or Malik, or what are they going to use? How are they going to limit him? Because that's going to be, when we get to our keys to the game, that's a huge key for the game, is to limit Armstrong. And for the most part, they've done that to some teams that come in with their big superstar receiver. They've been able to limit those plays. He's going to make his plays. He is one of the best in the SEC, NFL talent for sure. So he will get his plays. We'll see how much Texas can limit him. Texas' number one receiver is Gunnar Helm. That was, I knew he was up there with it, and Isaiah Bond, he's missed a game with the injury, but yeah. Gunnar Helm, 34 catches for 461 yards. Isaiah Bond, 26 catches for 436 yards. And that puts Gunnar Helm number 20 in the SEC, the 20th highest rated receiver.
Yeah, look, I think
our highest rated receiver is a tight end.
Yeah, I think the Gunnar Helm secret is starting to get out. Texas fans knew what we had. We knew what he was capable of, and he's really been showing up. I don't think he's talked about enough still, but I don't think that Arkansas is going to overlook Gunnar Helm at this point.
Right.
Texas knows how to use him. I think one of the things that we're going to look at as we break this down a little bit, how does the Texas offense utilize that motion and utilize those that misdirection that we saw do so well against Florida? When you have so many options from the same look, but you're moving so many guys, I think that's something where Gunnar Helm is really going to show up in this game and create chaos for Arkansas. Again, I think we're going to see Sark using that motion, using that misdirection, and going to play out again when it looks like a run, and when it looks like we're going to shove it down their throats. All of a sudden, Gunnar Helm's open for a quick, 10, 15-yard gain.
We saw him wide open against Florida.
Absolutely. Right? So I'm not convinced. I know that Arkansas's defense isn't blowing anybody's doors off. They're not shutting anybody down like crazy this year. So I think that looking at this matchup, just overall speaking, Texas offense against Arkansas's defense, even if there's a little bit of question, even if it takes a little bit for Texas to get rolling, even if there's some issues early on, I think that this offense overall for Texas is going to be too much for Arkansas's defense to handle. I think they're going to get overwhelmed with it. Again, just with the scheming. I think this is something we mentioned this with the Florida game. Sark was in his bag for that game. He knew what he was doing. He had his play calling ready. He knew who he was up against, and he threw Florida's defense off for sure. I think we're going to see that continue with Arkansas, even though there's a little bit more film on it, right? We're seeing new things every week, but they're starting to see, all right, we know this is going to be crazy. I'm still going to argue what Sark brought against Florida. Even if you know that's coming, even if you know there's going to be misdirection and guys are moving all around, how the hell do you defend against that? How the hell do you defend against that? I just think a lot
of gap integrity. And Arkansas does similar things. They have the motion. They run. They throw to set up the run. They run. They have a very complex system as well. So fortunately, our defense has practiced against a lot of that. But now you have what they have that we don't have right now with Quinn Ewers is a very much running threat from the quarterback as well. Like Quinn can move a bit, but nothing like a Taylon Green can move. So, who's the quarterback that practices that for them? I guess Arch Manning.
Arch Manning is a mobile guy. He's a big guy.
He is. All right, so let's compare their stats. Scoring offense, Arkansas is a number 33 scoring offense. Texas top 10 scoring offense. Third down offense, 13. Texas 21. Compare that to our third down defense. Their 13 down. Oh, this is where it's going to get good. Their third down offense, 13th in the country. Texas third down defense, 13th in the country. Something's got to give. Our third down offense, 21. Their third down defense, 63. So when we talk to our keys to the game, third down is going to be huge.
Yeah, absolutely.
Especially on the road. Rushing offense, they're top 32. Our rushing defense is they're all about the same. Texas rushing offense. I'll get better. Penalties a game. We've talked about this every week that Texas shoots themselves in the foot, like constantly self-inflicted wounds with the penalties. It is bad. They are number 94, tied with a bunch of teams at number 94 in the country with 6.89 penalties per game. Okay, to compare, the best in the country is Iowa at only 3.10. So we have more than twice that per game. But right below us is actually Arkansas, tied at 99 with 7 penalties, just about the same, 6.897 penalties per game. So this could be a penalty fest on Saturday, especially with the crowd and the noise and the false starts and the holdings. And what are you looking for in the penalty because I know this is one of your things that you're always talking about, the penalties.
Yeah, I'm harping on it. Listen, man, there's no excuses. Certainly when you're at home, when Texas is at home, there's absolutely no excuses for false starts and silly things like that.
One or two maybe,
which we saw enough of, right? We've seen plenty of over the season. Texas has to be ready for this. Despite it being an 11 a.m. game, this is going to be a hostile environment. Don't be fooled. Arkansas, like we've been talking about, Arkansas hates Texas more than they love themselves. The fans are going to be fired up early on. Right. They're going to try to utilize that crowd. They're going to try to get Texas to make mistakes early and often. Because again, as we talk about keys to the game, for Arkansas, it's going to be to get Texas in a bad position, in bad field position, and on those 3rd and longs, right? Penalties will play a huge role in that. So what I'm looking for Texas is really clean your shit up. It got better last week.
It's going to be a big ask on the road in this environment.
It absolutely is. We saw improvement for Texas from the week before. We saw 10 penalties, 108 yards. It dropped down, against Florida. I think it was at, if I recall correctly, 7 penalties for something like 70 yards. So it improved. Again, had we taken away, I wanted to see Texas kind of at that 55 yards of penalties.
Right.
That was going to happen.
Bold prediction.
Yeah. For me, that was one personal foul away.
Right.
So the key for Texas here, you can't make stupid mistakes. You can't make stupid. You've got to limit in this heated kind of environment, in this really hostile area. You cannot shoot yourself in the foot. There are going to be some penalties. It's the nature of the game. We understand that, but you've got to be smart. You've got to make sure that you're not putting yourself in 3rd and long. You're not putting yourself in long field positions to really, because that hurts yourself. That's going to be really difficult. So what I want to see from Texas with their penalties, clean it up. Don't make stupid mistakes. Keep the personal stuff to a minimum. That's going to be a big ask when teams are jawing and when they're in your face and when they're saying dumb things. But again, we know this team, we know Texas is capable of managing that. We saw that last year, even when we were at Alabama and the students were saying really nasty, ugly, racist things. Our guys were laughing on the sideline, right? I want Texas to go in with that mentality. Not bothered by you. We're fine. We're going to do our game. We're going to play our game.
This is going to be a test. Sark talked about how there's 11 players on the team now that were at that 2020 game. They've been with Sark since day one of his arrival. And so they've been in that heated environment. So the younger players may not know this, the younger players may not know this, the extent to this rivalry, right? And the heated hatred, but the senior leadership, the mature leadership,
they're figuring it out.
They can tell them we were there and this is how it is, and take it seriously. And Sark says he's giving the rivalry its due, right? So last thing we'll look at before we put this graphic away, turnovers lost and gained. I thought this was important because both teams have lost 15 fumbles or interceptions, turnovers, right? But Texas has gained 20 and they've only gained 12. So Texas is winning their turnover battle while Arkansas is not. So there is an opportunity for Texas to take advantage of the turnover battle.
Yeah, no, I really like that you brought up that Sark is taking this rivalry seriously and that he's putting up the bulletin board material and saying, hey man, we figured it out. These guys hate our guts. This is something that's going to be tough. One of the things he talked about is Texas has to play better than last time, right? That was just a pitiful performance of Texas going into Fayetteville. And you alluded to this earlier. Arkansas is big and physical. At the end of the day, they are still an SEC team with SEC talent, and they have the ability to mess things up. So let's hear what Sark had to say about how Texas has to perform.
Okay.
We've challenged the guys on a few things because we know we've got a heck of a challenge going to Arkansas here Saturday. We all know about the rivalry and what it means to the University of Texas, what it means to Arkansas. Last time we went there, things didn't go so well for us. So hopefully we can put a better foot forward against them in this ball game. They've got a good football team. They're big. They're physical. They're built like most SEC teams. They've got a very explosive offense with the run game and the pass game. They've got a big physical front. They got a defensive end who's going to be a first-round draft pick in Jackson. So we've got our work cut out for us. But I like the mentality of the team already here Monday morning with them understanding, that was a good game for us Saturday, but there's more work to be done.
Good game against Florida. Lots to grow on. More work to be done. So it's good that they are giving this rivalry its due. They're preparing them. And this, like you mentioned last year when they went into Alabama, but also last year being the last year of the Big 12 rivalries, and they had lost to some of those teams the year before and had a bad taste in their mouth. So last year was not only embrace the hate, but it was also a little bit of a revenge tour along the way, going into some heated environments, going into TCU. I'm gonna say what you want. It was a pretty heated environment, and that game got crazy at the end. Houston was heated. Like there was some that shouldn't have been heated and scary, but they got scary. But Texas found a way to win those games, right? Other than the OU that they get to take with them, but they went on the road in that vengeance tour, embrace the hate. You know, they began to love that, right? Being in those icy whites and going on the road and feeding off of that, and that's why he really stresses about don't have emotion, but don't play emotionally, right? Like don't lose control,
right?
And stay calm but focused and prepare and trust your process so that when they get to those heated environments, they come together. Like they have a culture that's brought them together, because last time they went into this environment, there was no culture yet, right? It was his first few days on the job, right?
It was Herman's leftover culture.
Yeah, Herman's leftover. Sark just taking whatever squad he had at the time and going and hadn't built his system with his speed and his style of play. So it's a completely different team. There's a few of the 100 and something. There's 11 that were there last time. Just like Arkansas is a whole new team. 4 years later, most teams are turned over, right? And it's two completely different teams. Nothing we can take from that team other than they learned that it's the real deal hatred happening.
I'm going to keep emphasizing this. No matter what, that hatred still lives in Arkansas. That hate and hurt, whether you think they're a rival or not, Arkansas thinks they're a rival.
Oh, they do.
And so it's going to be, that environment's going to be crazy. And I think Texas really needs to embrace that. Like you said, embrace the hate.
Yeah.
Own up to it. Be the villain if you need to be, however you want to do. CB, you're asking, will we be in Fayetteville? Yes, I will be there. Rocky is not going to go. She's got some stuff this weekend. I don't think you would go to Fayetteville.
No,
anyway.
I would not. I've only missed this year Dallas OU game because I never go to that game, but I would never get in a car and drive and end up in Arkansas
on purpose.
All
right. But you're asking that, CB, being in Fayetteville. I will bring this up, a few years ago when we were there and it was that awful blowout, Texas. So Arkansas spreads Texas out quite a bit. There's one section down low, and then there's, I think, 2 or 3 sections up top separated for Texas fans to be at. So they try to take Texas fans out of it, like any SEC team does for away visitors. But being at that game last time, we were up in the Texas section at the very, very tip top in like section 500, whatever the hell. Yeah, way up there in the nosebleeds. We were up in the heavens. And my friend Christine and I were coming down. Texas lost, just got their butt kicked, right? All we're trying to do is get out of that stadium. We had Arkansas fans, and they won the game. We had Arkansas fans throwing full water bottles down on us. Once we got to the ground floor, we had people throwing water bottles down on us from every level. That kind of stuff is dangerous. Like that to me is not.
I won't go there.
Yeah. Now, again, night game, different environment. I don't know that the results are going to be quite the same. Maybe they won't be as bold if this game doesn't go their way, but it is a hostile environment. And again, I don't want anybody for Texas to underestimate how nasty that environment can be. There's a difference between going, I'm happy to go into a hostile, like the crowd is loud and, they're really cheering for their team and they are so loud that we get false starts. That's one thing. Like physical violence. No, I agree.
And they've,
I'm not condoning it.
No, I'm not condoning it, but I'm just saying a place where we know people have had their cars vandalized and that they've gotten in bar fights and all these things. Like, that's not what I'm there for. Yeah. I'd rather stay home for that weekend.
I will say this. The night before was a lot of fun. We went downtown Fayetteville, had a great time. Didn't have any problems. Didn't have any confrontations. Didn't have any run-ins. It was the game that got pretty nasty.
Yeah, and I can imagine it gets pretty heated. All right, so let's kind of preview where Texas and Arkansas are coming into this game. Texas, we know they're 8-1, 4-1 in conference with wins. Colorado State, Michigan, UTSA, blah, blah, blah. All right, and we know their 1 losses to Georgia. I wanted to see who Arkansas has beaten, and because they're 3-3 in conference. Yeah. What is a UAPB? University of Arkansas Pine Bluff, right? Yep. UAB, we know University of Alabama, Birmingham, probably.
Yep, it is.
Auburn, and then Tennessee, we know that was a huge win.
Right. Tennessee ranked number 4 at the time.
Number 4 at the time, still a very much contention for the national championship. And their losses, all ranked teams. So Oklahoma State, which is no longer ranked, A&M now up to 15, LSU still ranked with 3 losses, and Ole Miss moving back up. So those are all respectable, except for Oak State, who's terrible now.
Yeah,
those are all respectable losses.
Yeah,
against good teams.
But I will say that the Okie State game and the Texas A&M game, those were closer games than you would think. Arkansas put up a good fight there, and had a couple calls gone a different way, we could be looking at very different results. Right. I know there was some controversial stuff going on with the Oklahoma State game. And again, Texas A&M, that's when they were still kind of figuring out who the heck is our quarterback.
Right.
Have they answered that yet? Are they still asking who the heck is their quarterback? But again, they caught TAMU on their heels. They caught Texas A&M on their heels. And Arkansas is capable of playing a good game. I think that they're still a work in progress very much. But certainly against a team like Texas, certainly against Texas themselves, Arkansas has the ability to really F things up.
Oh, yeah. So. And nothing would make them happier than to be the one that sends Texas out of opportunity for
the SEC championship.
Championship.
Agreed.
If Texas takes this loss, it's nothing. Everything's out of their control, right? Georgia will have the head-to-head over them, blah, 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 right? All the things we've talked about, all the different scenarios. It would help them nothing more than playing spoiler, right? To be the one that plays spoiler.
Absolutely.
All right. So let's look at, do you want to talk about Arkansas's offense?
Sure. Yeah.
All right.
We talked a little bit about it earlier, but let's go a little more in depth.
Yeah. So we talked about their third down efficiency being one of the best in the country. Texas equally efficient on third down defense. They are number 1 in the SEC and number 10 nationally in rushing efficiency. We talked about Taylon Green, 6'6", 225 pounds. Dang. He's putting up good numbers. We know the issue, though, is he healthy? How limited is he? He leads the team with number of carries. He's still listed as probable. Jaquindon Jackson, we know he's their leading running back. Armstrong, wide receiver. I think the biggest comparison, like we just looked at their win-loss records, the biggest comparison I would take from how Texas can come into Arkansas would be Ole Miss, because it's the most comparable in speed, offensive performance. Jackson Dart played a hell of a game. Can you get that from Quinn on the road? Against Ole Miss, Green was able to run throw for 158 yards, but he left at halftime. So we don't know what he could have done in that game, but it was a blowout. They brought in the backup. He still played well, but it was 35-10 at half. But this is why even though I see that Arkansas is like, ooh, if efficient, this was their first half. Punt, fumble for a touchdown, fumble for a touchdown, field goal, punt, touchdown, missed field goal, end of half. So more could be desired from that first half, but they still managed 500 yards of offense. So thoughts? What is the Texas defense going to do against this Arkansas offense?
Yeah, we brought this up earlier. Again, I think looking at the injuries are going to be I'm going to function under the assumption that they're both back. They're both healthy enough to play. I think the key, like you were mentioning, Texas has got to stop the run. I think Texas is going to lock down the receivers. I'm not worried about the secondary, which is a really nice thing to say given where we were last year, right? That turnaround by Texas secondary has been really fun to watch this season. I think the biggest question is going to be in the running game. Can Arkansas develop enough of a running game to give their receivers a little bit of cushion, to give some options there? And can Texas cover that well enough? I think right now, the answer is yes. I think Texas will be able to stop the run. I think they're going to be motivated, and I think they've been working on it. So, yeah, I do think we're going to see, in the perfect world, I think they're going to give up more yards rushing than we would like to see. But I think Texas is going to lock down on the rushing more than they did against Florida. And I'm saying that, I know, again, Florida had almost 200 yards of rushing.
Yes, but this team actually has the
runners. I know. We're playing an extra team. But I think Texas defense is going to respond really well. I think they understand what they're up against. I think they've been working on this, and I think they know that that's going to be a key to the game for Arkansas. So yeah, I think Texas defense stands up. I think they do. I've got confidence. Look at me. Look at me in my confidence.
When we get to my keys to the game, I have a different thought.
I like it. All right. Well,
all right. Defense, Arkansas's defense. Let's touch on that. They do a very much bend but don't break. They keep everything in front of them. They are down, like we saw their injury report. They are down DBs again, just like with Texas last week with Florida, can Quinn and the O-line and the receivers take advantage? Quinn was able to do that last week, start picking apart those DBs that were down to the second and third string. Can they do that again on the road? This is an opportunity. They're giving up 266 passing yards a game and 121 rush yards a game. So this was before Ole Miss. They were giving up 21 points a game. They give up 63 to Ole Miss. And not that Texas can go in and duplicate what Ole Miss did, because that was a pretty lightning in the bottle performance by Jackson Dart. But you can see that there's the pieces that are there. They have the personnel to duplicate, take that game plan somewhat. And, and you add in Sark's genius. How do you think Arkansas's defense how will Texas's offense take advantage of Arkansas's defense? What are you looking for?
Yeah, you mentioned earlier that the Arkansas defense is a bend, don't break kind of defense. I think Texas is going to break them. I really do. I think they're not going to be able to keep this complete offense.
I'm excited to hear your score prediction today.
Yeah, you like that? I don't think Arkansas is going to have answers for the Texas offense. I really don't. I think that we are seeing a healthy Quinn making smarter decisions. I think, again, like we saw, I mentioned this earlier, like we saw against Florida, Sark was in his bag and he's got a lot of motion, a lot of movement. I think it's going to confuse the Arkansas defense. And I think Texas right now, especially as healthy as they are with as many players as they have back, there's just so many weapons on the offense that Texas has, in high caliber weapons. We're not just talking like, every now and again. There's just a multitude of guys that are now healthy that Quinn has as an option. So what I'm looking to do, I want to see Texas, again, establish a run. I want to see more production out of Wisner and out of Blue to be able to see, really what's to really establish that and open up some other options. But at the end of the day, I think Texas is going to come through and really just beat down this Arkansas defense. I don't think they have enough juice to hang with this high velocity offense when Texas is clicking. And I think Texas is going to be clicking.
Oh man, I'm giving a little bit more credit to their offense with a healthy Taylor Green. We don't know yet how healthy, but they're rushing. They can run the ball, and they have, yes, we said Texas defense has done a much better job containing dual threat quarterbacks, but this is a different level of dual threat quarterback when he's healthy. So let's talk about our keys to the game.
All right.
Do you want me to go first?
Yeah. Give me what you think early keys to the game are.
All right. So let's have keys to the game for Texas to win, and then what would have happened if Arkansas won. And I'll start with my keys to the game for Texas to win. Stop the run, especially Taylor Green. It goes without saying, right? That however they want to do it. If they want to spy, if they want to just keep their zones, keep them contained, however they're going to do it. And of course, they're going to mix and match and surprise him with. And I love the way they've used Leon Galafau and Anthony Hill and the edges in the past to really contain these quarterbacks. They had Pavia all confused early, so that would be number one, is the run game, especially after we saw Florida put 200 yards rushing on them. The second, to me, for a Texas win is to limit explosive plays, especially by Andrew Armstrong. We talked about him, almost 16 yards a carry. Even though he only has one touchdown on the season, he still is a huge part for momentum, moving the change, staying alive, and not getting off the field. A huge part of their third down efficiency is completing these passes, especially to Andrew Armstrong. And then my last one, for Texas win at Arkansas, score quick, get the crowd out of it. Score quick. The first drive cannot be a turnover. The first drive cannot be an interception, or what we saw last week, the fumble that who was it that got on the fumble? Was it DeAndre Moore? Somebody that got kind of fumbled it and got on it real quick. Yeah, saved it great, but we cannot have a turnover. Was it Gibson? No, early in the game, like the first catch or two. Oh, yeah. Anyway, there was so they we need to get the crowd out, just quiet them a bit early, move the ball. We know Sark when he's in his bag, he's dialing up the play calling, and then it's up to the team to be efficient in their execution. I would love to quiet the crowd early and often. Yeah. So those to me are the three keys.
I like that. I agree. You've got to take the crowd out of this game. Mm-hmm. What I would say that I'm a little different than you. I have a lot of confidence in Texas here. I know you do too. I think Texas is going to have the ability. You can make a few mistakes here, but you got to limit them.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. You've got to take the crowd out of it. I think if mistakes happen early in the game, Texas will have the opportunity to recover.
Right.
What I want to see, and I'm going to harp on this, one of my keys to the game, minimize the dumb mistakes, minimize the penalties. I said it earlier. I'm going to keep saying it till I'm green in the damn face because, I'm green because I'm sick over it, right? I'm so sick over the penalties.
Okay.
I want Texas to minimize the penalties and to keep a clean game. You can't get yourself into third and long situations. You can't hurt yourself in that sense. So you've really got to clean it up against a team that's going to want to hurt you. They're going to be talking trash. They're going to be in your face. They're probably going to be doing some ugly shit at the bottom of that pile.
Oh, man.
I'm just saying, you can't let that get to you. You've got to be smart about it. Limit the personal fouls. I don't want to see personal fouls, but limit it. Play smart football and don't shoot yourself in the foot. So limit those penalties. I think that's a big key for Texas, number one.
Okay.
Number two, I want to see Gunnar Helm all over the place. I want to see Gunnar Helm have himself a day.
Nice.
I think Arkansas, I talked earlier about the weapons that this Texas offense has. You've got to focus on Bond. You've got Golden. You've got Bolden. You've got guys that are very capable of hurting you long.
Mm-hmm.
You can't cover them all. So I want to see Gunnar Helm take advantage, solid blocking like he does. I think where Gunnar has really excelled this season is not where the stats show you, right? He's where he needs to be. He's making smart blocks. He's there. He's helping the guys out. He's giving that extra push, right?
Right.
But then he'll also kill you with those hurdles and then the quick catches. He's got good hands. He'll be there. So he's a big, strong guy. And when you're focusing on covering all the wide receivers, Gunnar Helm's going to have a lot of opportunities here. So I want him to make Arkansas pay. It's a death by 1,000 cuts, perhaps, but they're not going to be able to cover everybody as well as they should. And I think I'd like to see them take advantage of that with Gunnar Helm coming in. The last thing that I really want to see is that win the field position battle. We talked about this, and this ties in with the penalties. It ties in a little bit with what I'll have to say for keys for Arkansas to win is Texas has not done a great job both on special teams and hurting themselves because of penalty and winning that field position battle. And so I really want to see Texas take advantage and make sure that you're putting yourself. Do I think this offense is capable of going 99 yards and scoring against Arkansas? I do, but you shouldn't have to, right? Why make it harder than you need to? So win that field possession battle. Make sure that your special teams are performing well. You're getting good kicks out of your guys because, again, this is one of those games that if you make a stupid mistake there, if you give up a big play on special teams, if you have some kind of crazy return, you're bringing that crowd right back into it.
Yep.
It can change the momentum of this game. It can hype Arkansas up and give them extra drive. You've got to limit that stuff. So win that field position battle. And I think Texas is in a really good position to win the game.
I like that you mentioned the field position again. I wanted to show again the injury report. Availability report. We saw Arkansas's kicker, Kyle Ramsey, is out for this game. And he's played most of the season. That could be a key in if this field position battle, if you can get them starting way back in their own end where they really have to fight for field goal range. And we saw earlier when I read off how the first half went for them last week, they missed a field goal. That if you can get them backed up and make them have to work just for field goal and then bring in the backup kicker, that could pay off on the road. That could get you some momentum and deflate the crowd a little bit. All right. So let's say for Arkansas to win, these things have to happen. Do you want to go first for this one?
Yeah,
okay,
I'll bring it in. All right. So if it's going to be a bad day for Texas, here's why. I think if Arkansas can pressure Quinn Ewers and get to him, get him dirty, get that uniform dirty.
Susceptible.
He can be a little susceptible there. Yeah. So if Arkansas somehow figures out how to cover everybody and break through and get some pressure, get Quinn on his butt, get that uniform dirty, there can be some issues there. They have some opportunity.
Right. When
you get in his head and when you get him thinking about, am I going to be hurt? He tends to not necessarily check down the way he needs to. He tends to kind of miss some of his guys and maybe pull back a little. So I think that would be a key for Arkansas. Get that pressure on Quinn and get in his head a bit.
Right.
Number two, I do think that you got to put Texas in a position in third and long. Put them in, make them work for those yards. put them in positions where they're fighting for their life, where Texas is fighting for their life with those 3rd and long situations. The more that Arkansas can do that, the higher chances are. Again, this ties back into
if they're getting Texas in 3rd and long.
Correct. This is how Arkansas wins
and
the game.
Those false starts and those holdings will do it
Exactly.
quick.
Exactly.
Yes,
this is where that field position battle, this is where the penalties play in. If Arkansas can do enough to put Texas in 3rd and long or in 4th down situations a lot. Well, I do think Texas, certainly, we've seen Texas is capable of being efficient on 3rd down, of completing on 4th downs. But if you have to do it too much, you're just, once again, Texas would be shooting themselves in the foot. So for Arkansas to win this game, you've got to put Texas in those 3rd and longs in 4th down situations a lot. And then the last thing that I think would be a key for Arkansas to win this game would be, again, I'm going to say this, it goes along with what I said is a key for Texas, take Gunnar Helm out of the game. Make him ineffective, right? You're going to have to figure out how to cover everybody. I'm going to keep harping on this. Texas has a ton of weapons. If you can effectively cover those weapons, stop the run a little bit, make sure that all the guys are covered, and Gunnar doesn't take advantage of that, doesn't have a good game, you've got an opportunity there if you can keep everybody covered, right?
Yeah.
So I think if you take Gunnar, again, I'm putting a lot on him, but I think
you're putting a lot on Gunnar.
I'm all right with it though. Like I think he's up for it. And again, for me, this is just the plethora of talent that Texas has.
Yeah, there's so many weapons.
How do you focus, right?
Yeah.
So I think a big key is, again, Gunnar having a good game for Texas to win, to really shut things down, and for Arkansas to have a chance, take him out of the game.
All right. I'm going to say these things happened. That's why Arkansas could have won this game, right? They won the turnover battle, right? We saw earlier, both teams have 15 turnovers given up, but Texas has acquired 20 and they have only acquired 12. So Texas over the season has won the turnover battle. Arkansas has not. But if they can get Texas, we've seen some of the running backs have trouble hanging on to the ball. We've seen that. We've seen Quinn throw some interceptions. So if they can force some turnovers, they have an opportunity there, especially we talk about field position, right? Also, I think if they can make this a 4th quarter game, stay in it, take the field goals when they're there, like try to get a stop on Texas. If they can keep those things and it's a 4th quarter game and the crowd is still in it in the 4th quarter, they have an opportunity. And then third, I think if they run to set up their play action and downfield passing game, we know they like to commit they have a strong running game. They like the play action, but we know Taylor Green can throw the ball down the field. They're one of the best in the country on explosive plays. He's one of the best in the explosive plays. So if they can keep that running game going and then get Texas sucked in just enough and go over their head with someone like Armstrong, which they like to do, that could be a test for Texas because they haven't seen a quarterback like this. Even the best quarterback was supposed to be Carson Beck so far this year. And Carson Beck, even though Georgia won that game, it was a good game for them. It wasn't because of Carson Beck that day. So if they win this game, it's going to be because Taylor Green, right? So I would say those are the keys. Win the turnover battle, make it a 4th quarter game, and run to set up these downfield passes. All right, time for our bold predictions. We have to say last week when we did our bold predictions for Florida, we were right on. Pretty good.
Pretty close. Even closer than I was.
Yeah, I said there would be 300 yards passing and 200 yards rushing, and I was pretty close. I think I said 325 yards passing, whatever it was. And I said there would be 3 interceptions, but there were 2 in a fumble recovery. So
you'll count it.
And you were good. You had a big reduction on penalties, and they were reduced.
Yeah, they were
reduced. Not as hopeful at the level of your hope, but they were pretty good. All right, so bold predictions. I will go. This sounds bad. But it's okay because we saw even against Ole Miss, they had 500 yards of offense.
Yeah.
So I'm going to say they run for over 200 yards.
Okay.
They win the time of possession battle.
Okay.
Because that's what comes when you run the ball all day.
Ouch. All right.
But Texas they will not be able to hang with Texas's speed. So I'm gonna say give them the time of possession and running the ball on Texas. I look at Texas is giving up the run right now.
Yeah.
So
they are.
So and I'm gonna say they manage that time of possession, and it could just because Texas scores so quickly. But no matter what, I'm going to give them time possession, and they're going to rush for over 200 yards.
All right.
Sorry.
That's all right. Hey, you take the good with the bad, don't you? So, all right. My bold prediction is slightly more positive than yours, I think. I have that Texas will get a pick 6 and a blocked punt for 6.
Both?
Both. I'm going with both, baby.
What makes you think we're actually going to block a punt? Like, what about what? I don't feel like we've been pressuring enough on the punt. You feel it's coming?
I feel it's coming. I think it's there. I'm not going to rely on our kicker right now, but I am going to rely on everybody else being amped up.
I'll rely on Auburn.
So I do think that Texas comes in, gets, like I said, we're talking turnover battle here. I think Texas is amped up, and I think they come in and get both a pick 6 and block a kick. So I like it. Are we ready to do score predictions quite yet? You want to hold on?
Let's do our score predictions, but let's give a little love to Carlos. He's in Fayetteville. He's deep in it.
Boots on the ground.
Someone who lives in Fayetteville. Yes, talking about the hate lives strong in their heads. They've been saying a lot this week. I don't know.
Been saying a lot.
Oh, they haven't been saying a lot in Fayetteville. Okay.
That's what I'm saying. I don't think that the Pigs have a lot of confidence in the team right now. I've seen all over Twitter, like I see the hate there for sure, but they've been a lot quieter than they've been in years past. I've seen a lot of Pigs predicting that Texas is going to go up and go up big in this game.
They just took a beat down to Ole Miss. So, all right. And then you also say that there are a lot of tickets now on the websites that have dropped. So if the Horns want to get to that game, come to Fayetteville, you'll be there.
And I appreciate that. That's something that I look at. Like, where is the fan confidence?
Right. You can tell by when they're selling their tickets.
Exactly. When tickets start to clear out and when things are running like that. And actually on that note, like I actually have an extra ticket. So if you guys want to go hit me up on Twitter, I've got a ticket for sale. But yeah, it's in the Texas section for sure. I mean, I think that the fan confidence is not really high in Arkansas right now.
Right.
The hate will always remain high. Doesn't matter what. They could be, and whatever they are. They could win 0 games, but if they beat Texas, they'll consider it.
Oh, yeah.
Consider it a win on the season. So, this is one of those games. Like I said, at the beginning of the year, I had this marked as a trap game for Texas.
Okay.
I had this circled on here, and I was worried about it. But as we're going, I think I'm shaking that UTSD a little bit. I'm getting more confident as we get closer to the game here. So I think there is potential. Like Texas has to stay on it. They have to, again, keys to the game. They've got to play a good game and keep mistake free. But we ready to give some score predictions?
Yeah, I'll let you go first.
All right. As you might have guessed, I'm pretty confident here. I feel good about it. I think we see a score here of Texas 42, Arkansas 20. I'm going to give Arkansas a little bit of love. I think
So you have a solid cover.
I have a solid cover.
And an over, I think.
And yes, a solid cover and an over. And I have a proper ass whooping still. I do think this is going to be a game where early on, that energy and that hype and that motivation is going to keep Arkansas close with Texas. We might see a few little mistakes early on, but I think Texas recovers from that. And like I said, I just don't see Arkansas having the answers for this Texas offense to hang for the whole game.
Okay. I'm not as okay. So the over under is just, is 57.5. You have it at 62. So you have an over and a cover.
And that's on Texas's side, right? I think Texas is going to show up. Yeah.
Okay. I just feel, like I said, they're going to control time possession. I feel that the run game is going to eat up a lot of clock. Texas might not have this many opportunities. There's going to be, just like we saw last week, sack gets them out of field goal range or a penalty stalls a drive. Especially on the road, as optimistic as I am that they're going to try really hard, being on the road in that kind of environment, I still worry about that stuff. So I'm not. I have more of an under. So I'm more in the maybe they hit 28, no 27.
Okay.
I just think this is going to be a more brutal brawl, and I'm more in the they're going to win 27-17.
Okay. 10-point win.
Yeah. I have it as an under and a not cover, but going on the road and winning at all is huge.
Yeah.
And that they're still in the hunt.
Survive in advance.
Yeah, survive in advance. And right now they can they afford a loss? Yes. Will all hell break loose and they now everything's out of their control? Yes. So yeah. I'm more in the 27-17. So if you have your predictions, please put it on the notes. What do you have?
Yeah, Carlos, love it. You got 49-24.
Oh,
Man, that's confident as hell. I would love to see that. I don't know that Texas is going to go quite that nuts and close to 50, but we're not that far off here, friend. We're not that far off. So I like it. So again, y'all drop your predictions and let us know what you think that Arkansas score is going to end up at. Does Texas roll? Is it a little closer like Rocky thinks, but Texas still prevails? Does the absolute worst happen? Does Texas just absolutely poop the bed here? What goes on? What do you think?
As long as it is not like last year. Oh, I mean, last time they went 4 years ago.
Yeah.
All right. So we made our predictions. Let's look at broader UT athletics. Texas Longhorns. This is the rankings. Texas women swimming and diving and men swimming and diving are both number 2 in the country. Football, we know, is number 3 in the country. Golf, basketball, both women's golf and basketball are top 4. Men's golf, top 5. All these top 5 teams in the country.
In CDC, we trust.
In CDC. Volleyball has dropped to, is that 14 or 11? Is
14.
that 14? Yeah, they've had a few losses. Seems like to every rival they've lost.
Yeah, it's been rough in the conference.
Yeah, that's all right. They'll get it together. And then 21 soccer, we talked about them. They are in the national championship tournament. Friday, 6 p.m. You can watch them in Austin. So unfortunately, this is how it goes, I guess, sometimes with basketball. The men's basketball dominated the other night, 105-58. But they are now unranked. They lost to Ohio State. They had a good butt whooping at home, and then they got knocked out of the top 25. But that's okay. You can see just now they were not in the list of ranked teams.
Yeah, that is true.
All right. So Michael, Taff, Mookie. We big time stand Mookie on this. This Fire the Cannon podcast. We love us some Mookie. Westlake kid, master of the film study. He is up for the Burlsworth Trophy. Have you ever heard of the Burlsworth?
Burlsworth?
Burlsworth. Thank you. Burlsworth Trophy. And here it is, Michael Taff, semifinalist. Burlsworth.
Yeah.
It's for former walk-on.
Yeah, very cool. So, hey, he's been putting in the work, showing up and showing out, like we like to say, and I love it, man. You gotta love to see Mookie there. So, go ahead.
I was gonna say we show the stats every week. He stays as one of the highest graded DBs in all of the SEC and one of the highest in the country. He's one of the most efficient safeties. Just a fantastic athlete. Really studies the film, directs everything from the back, and to see how he bet on himself and walked on at Texas when he did have scholarship opportunities, at other places. I think a lot of people forget that he was back-to-back high school championship defensive player of the championship. Like, he's played at a high level in Texas, but I guess got overlooked. But bet on himself.
Yeah.
And of course, like Sark always says, these kind of awards, they're not seeking them, but they do come when the team is winning, right? When the team is doing well, this kind of recognition comes. So good luck to Mookie. And hope he wins the Burlsworth Award. I wonder, would he get to go to New York for that? Is that one of those awards?
I don't know where the whole.
Because some they get to go spend the week being wined and dined, and then they get to get a trophy, even if it's not part of the big Heisman ceremony. They still get to go up and get awards.
Right.
We talked about this the other day. Joe Moore Award finalists and semifinalists, and Texas is in there.
Yeah.
Texas is in there as a semifinalist.
Hanging in for sure.
Okay.
All right. I wanted to ask you this. Have you seen, so traditionally senior night happens on the last home game.
Oh, that was great.
The last home game of the season, right? We'll see that for Texas against Kentucky. So it's just a moment to honor your seniors and how well they're doing and everything that's going on. But, there's some thoughts around it. You want to have a positive senior night. Texas has not always had that.
It's usually the last game of the season.
9 times out of 10.
And you better get up for it because it's senior night.
Absolutely. This news just in, Texas A&M has moved their senior night. No longer will it be the game against Texas. They've moved senior night to their game against New Mexico State. To me, that is so obvious. That doesn't scream high level of confidence in your team to have a great night.
So obvious why they did that.
Yeah, exactly. So listen, Aggies, never change. We love you here. keep doing you, boo.
It's like when you look at the calendar and you pick which high school you're going to have your homecoming against, because like
you want the worst team.
You want the worst team on your calendar. So if you're someone's homecoming, that's rude, right? They thought they were going to beat you. It's disrespectful. So it's kind of along that line where we know for years and years Texas and A&M were the last games of each other's season, that Thanksgiving weekend, right? But this year is the first time back, and why they don't have enough confidence to go ahead and have senior night against Texas.
That's my thing. You would already marked Texas as your senior night, and then you're like, as the season goes on, maybe not.
And
maybe,
then to
just
make
kidding.
that comment, well, we didn't want it to be a distraction being the Texas game. That's the biggest
That's the
game
perfect
of the year.
time for
That's
it.
the perfect time to have senior night when it's the biggest game of the year.
You gotta love it.
In your stadium, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
All
right. So talking of hate and rivalries and maybe getting in heads.
Yeah,
you've got a story here.
Sam Pittman, tell me, do you think is this shade or is it just whatever? Sam Pittman, we know the coach of Arkansas, was talking about Texas defenses from Horn Sports. He reported, I'm not going to say simple, but where they are going to line up. Tim talking about Texas defense. They remind me a lot when I was at Georgia, the types of schematics they are running. Basically, they are saying we are better than you and are going to line up and whip your butt. Is that whatever? Is that an insult?
I think
is
the intention
simplifying their concepts as, they're so simple, or is it praise that they don't need to be complex? They just walk up and kick your ass.
I think the last part of that, if he had just said Texas lines up and challenges you and says we're better than you and going to line up and whip your butt, that would have been a compliment. But to throw in the simple and the we know what you're doing, I'm going to read into this. And if this was any other coach,
where they are going to line up.
Exactly. If this was any other coach, any other game, I might not be as sensitive about it, but I do think this was subtle shade being thrown at Texas. This is no different to me than who was it? Was it Bama that came in and when he met with Strong, was subtly putting his horns down in the photos, in the photo op pictures? I feel like that it's that subtle shade. He's not going to call it out. He's not going to be really blatant about it and in your face, but he is talking shit behind the scenes, just a little bit, just those little jabs, those little digs.
To me, if somebody said, I know where you're going to line up and you're just telling me that you're going to whip my butt, to me, that is more of a compliment to Texas, because it's one thing to say, we always know where they're going to line up, and then Texas is one of the worst defenses in the country. That would be one thing, but Texas is one of the best, in a lot of statistics, the best defense in the country. And if we say this is where we're lining up week after week, and they still, are the best pass efficiency on defense and all those other things and get the turnovers and all the things they're doing, then I think it's kind of a compliment if they say, I'm just going to line up.
I agree.
It depends how you want to take this, right?
I'm reading this with hate in my heart. I'm not giving any credit. I'm not saying yes and thank you. It was Belima that said it.
Brett Bielema.
I can never say his last name. The fat guy.
Bielema.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So speaking of shade, there's another thing I wanted to, a little coaches feuding, SEC wrist slapping between coaches. There was some question. Listen, Lane Kiffin, always good for a soundbite.
I love him.
Always good for a soundbite. He mentioned, Kiffin himself said this. There was some question, did Mike Elko fire a jab at Lane Kiffin about kickoff times? Kiffin in the past has complained that Ole Miss gets these early games, these early kicks. So unlike Sark, where Sark says Texas likes the early games, Lane Kiffin says, no, we don't like the early games. And how do we keep getting screwed with early games in the SEC? Texas A&M, on the other hand, has had quite a few night games, certainly at Kyle Field. Right. Elko came in and said, we're just going to kind of threw a little playful jab, said, we'll happily trade you, but yep, we're going to be playing at night. Kiffin responded and said, I'll trade you anytime, coach. It's not fair to our fans. By the way, check out the quarterback play and scoring at night and home on the road. So I like this response. My question is, did Mike Elko actually is it really a jab to say, we'll trade you anytime, right? Or we'll trade you for those night games? I don't see that as a jab. But apparently Kiffin took it, maybe a little banter back and forth between two coaches that have some respect for each other. But yeah, I mean, Kiffin, to his point, he said it's not fair to the fans. By the way, here comes a little jab from Kiffin. By the way, check out our quarterback play and scoring at night, home, and on the road.
Because they just put a beat down on Arkansas.
Exactly. So again, listen, I'm here for petty. Petty is my favorite color. I love it. I think Lane Kiffin wears it well. So just some fun news there.
Okay.
Go ahead.
No, that was funny.
Yeah.
Can you kick a football?
Can I kick a football?
Yeah.
Can I kick a football well, or can I physically kick a football?
Could you kick it through the post if you had to kick it through the post?
I think it depends on if I had enough practice time and where am I kicking from. Generally speaking, probably not. If 20 years ago, yes. Now, probably not.
Because if you go to Arizona State, their kicking has been so bad. They had a call out to Kenny Dillingham, the coach, called out to, if you can kick and you're at Arizona State, email me. They had like a tryout or an open call for students who can kick to come out and try. That's how down they are in kicking. Kicking is bad in the college football. It's inconsistent, and it has put some games in severe question lately.
So that's
even
a question.
PATs aren't guaranteed in the college
Is there
football.
some benefit in specializing in kicking right now? Right? Are you going to would you look at a soccer player? Would you look at a female soccer player maybe?
Oh yeah, if they can kick a football, it's a very different ball.
It is.
Just like there's men's soccer players who think they can come and kick a ball, but it's very different, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's pretty funny. Whenever you have to give a call out to the students, anybody eligible who can kick, come on down.
So are they not going by Texas's old playbook of looking to Australia for the Aussie rules kickers? Because Texas had some pretty good luck looking at over in Australia across the pond.
Yes, but even those take time to develop, right, into the American game of football. Even those take some time to develop. Okay, this is our favorite time of year, right?
It's the most wonderful time of the year.
It's the most wonderful time. It is Flipmas. Almost, according to recruiting guru that everybody loves to follow, he gets out all the cool edits and stuff. Hayes Fawcett. The flips coming this week. My goodness, it's Flipmas. Is there any recruit? I know you're not a big recruiting following person.
That's more your bag.
Is there any recruit that you're just like really dying to please shoot flip and come to Texas?
Yeah, look, I'm gonna butcher the name, but Michael Fasusi.
That's right.
Yeah,
Fasusi.
Yeah. I mean, he's committed to OU right now, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So I know that's one that Texas was really in the mix for. I doubt that those conversations have stopped.
Yeah.
And I think the way that OU is playing, I think Texas has a good chance of having some conversations and changing some minds. How about you?
Some people are saying A&M's more in play. Is it just as much in play as Texas, if not?
If you're asking me who I want, it'd be him.
Oh yeah, I agree. But for me, like if I could flip anybody, and it's not going to happen because why would he leave, not stay at Oregon? But DeCorian Moore, what a heartbreak!
That was a big one.
What a heartbreak when he didn't choose Texas. And Oregon is number one in the country, and they have everything in front of them.
And Oregon's one of the few schools.
They have stability, and there's no reason for him to.
Oregon's one of the few schools that Texas is not going to just money whip.
Yeah, no. They have the NIL packages, they have the facilities, they have the coaching staff, consistency. Like they have all the things that I don't blame somebody for saying, Oregon, I understand. So DeCorian Moore would be my Mary Flipmas. I would absolutely still take Fasusi, but go where they feel best. All right. You were saying Kennesaw State fired their head coach.
Crazy, right? Listen,
these are all our favorite top stories that we just fly through at the end.
This is what I don't understand. You've got, an FCS team that you hire this coach, Brian Bonahan. You hire him. He actually brings your school up in the FCS. They start to do really well. Kennesaw State has some success, does okay. And then he brings your school up into the FBS. This is the first year that Kennesaw State is in the FBS. They went 1-8 the first year. Again, this is your inaugural season as an FBS school. Kennesaw State, talk about knee-jerk reactions. Kennesaw State fires him before the season's done. How do you, I don't know, man. This just seems like an incredibly short-sighted, silly move. Not just that. So it's your first year in the FBS. You had a lot of success before.
Tougher competition.
You've still got really good players. And now you're playing with the big boys. You fire your coach that got you there before the first season's even done.
Yikes.
What do you think is going to happen? You're going to lose all your players to different schools.
And what coach would
and then who do you hire? You have now shown yourself to be a school that if you don't win in an incredibly difficult situation in your first half of the year, you're gone. That seems like a stupid move to me.
Yeah, I don't know why. Maybe there's something happening behind the scenes that we don't know about. Something happened behind the scenes, but you're making it so much harder to get any, like you said, any good qualified coach to come in. Who's going to come in knowing that they're going to be fired? You know, in this, if you're fired in this situation, you can be fired. Yeah, that's going to be tough. And all the coaching staff and everybody that's a bummer.
Absolutely.
That's a bummer. There's obvious growing pains moving up to from FCS to FBS.
Right.
Another reason that FCS wins shouldn't count towards bowl eligibility, because if you can go from flying to the FCS and then barely win anything in the FBS,
Man, it takes a while though.
I know, no, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That's why FCS games should not count toward bowl eligibility. Play them, but don't count them to your bowls.
You're killing me. All right. The last thing that I wanted to point out that it seems a little silly, it is SEC related.
Okay.
Recently, we saw Jake Pope, who plays, he's a second string guy for Georgia, against the game, in the game against Ole Miss. He was seen celebrating with Ole Miss fans,
Right.
And smiling. God forbid the kids smile, right? This was not taken well. Fans reacted not favorably. Jake Pope had to come out and say, hey, I'm sorry. I'm sorry that I was celebrating. I'm sorry, but let me explain.
Right.
Mind you, too, Kirby Smart had come out and literally called the kid an idiot, said the kid was being an idiot.
For being happy that, and he explains, he was happy he saw some longtime family friends.
So here's the explanation. He's from the area, and he has friends that have been lifelong, family friends that always go to Ole Miss games. So they happened to be there for that Georgia game, and they showed up and he saw them. And even though Georgia lost, he wanted to say hi to his friends. So they were celebrating. He was smiling in a photo where his friends were wearing Ole Miss stuff and celebrating, and got chastised for that. Not only that, your coach called you an idiot. Kirby Smart later kind of took that back and said, I regret calling him that. I shouldn't have said that. No shit, man. Like, even if you feel that way about the kid, you don't come out and publicly say it. And then when you find out even more what the story is, so you're not going to apologize. And as this Gator fan mentions, Gator Drew 352 mentions, there's been no apologies for the drunk driving or the speeders or the vehicular manslaughter, but a kid was smiling in a photo with opposing team fans, and he's got to apologize for that. What do you think of that?
I agree. I mean, we've seen it's all the off season. It was almost a joke. Like who should be left on this roster? Like this comment says, they had vehicular manslaughter, they had drunk drivers, they had women beaters, they had people abuse kids, they had all these things happen. And Kirby's like, oh, we're handling that in house, or we're doing this in house. And some were not on the team anymore, but a lot of them still are, and a lot of them, leave it to this, the systems of justice to handle them. But at the same time, what kind of program are you running? What kind of culture is this? And then somebody who's happy to see family members or a longtime friends of families or whatever they are, now he's going to say that person's an idiot?
Yeah, I get that the optics are bad. I understand it, but talk about a knee-jerk reaction, man.
But look at how many players in the NFL go and swap jerseys or visit with the other team or give hugs with their buddies from the other team. That happens after every game.
I get it. I think it was more about the perception of him celebrating a Georgia loss with the opposing team's fans, right? You don't see that in the NFL.
He wasn't putting up cheers to Ole Miss.
I agree. I'm saying is I think that's what the perception was.
Yeah.
But still, I agree with you. Like you've got to figure that. First of all, don't call your players an idiot publicly.
Yeah.
Call them an idiot behind closed doors all you want, right? But you don't drag that stuff out to the public.
Yeah.
And then secondly, maybe find out more about what it's at. I appreciate Jake Pope's response. I think it was well thought out. I thought it was reasonable. I thought it was heartfelt. But he shouldn't have been in that position in the first place.
It's silliness. It's silliness.
All right, y'all. Well, you heard it here. We've recapped the Texas-Arkansas game. Texas heads into Fayette-Nam. Can they take on the Pigs? Both Rocky and I think yes. A little bit different predictions for that game. So again, see us on Twitter. Drop us your predictions. Let us know. We'll put that out there into the world. If you're going to be in Fayetteville, hit me up. I'll be there. Just message me on Twitter. Would love to meet up with some Texas fans and do that Burn Orange proud out there. So as always, y'all, we appreciate you being here. Be sure to like and subscribe on Instagram and X. We are Fire the Cannon and the number 1. On YouTube, we are at Fire the Cannon Podcast. Again, please like and subscribe. We appreciate you being here. We appreciate your participation. As always, y'all, I'm Megan.
I'm Rocky.
And we are Fire the Cannon. Okay.